All right, we should be live. Make sure that everything's up and running. So let's see how things go today. I'm okay, how are you? All right, I think that we are all set. Feeling better? Honestly, not really, which is kind of a bummer. Like, I thought I would be better by now, but I'm not, so kind of bummed about that. I'm doing grad school apps. I'm going to be working on job applications later today, so. All right, let's get them likes in, and then we can get more people in here to have a conversation. Okay, I think that we're all set. Let's, oh, I need to plug in my headphones, I'm sorry, before we get started. All right, we should be good to go on audio. Okay, let's talk to Devin. Devin. Devin, can you hear me? I'm doing all right. How are you?
Just fine. Can you hear me?
Glad to hear it. Yeah, so do you believe in God?
Yes, I do.
And which one would that be?
That's a good question. I believe in just one God, but he comes through the message that God gives is through different prophets, like Jesus, Moses, Muhammad. I'm a Baha'i, though.
So why did you say you're not Baha'i?
Oh, I am a Baha'i.
Oh, okay, sure.
The Baha'i faith.
A good friend of mine is Baha'i. Anyway, so why should I think that this God that you believe in is real? Like, what's the best argument that you could give me?
I really can't. It's just a question of faith. I guess if you're looking for a logical argument, is one that you hear a lot. That I guess it would be impossible for things to come into existence by themselves, like this universe, our physical body, who made us. So I guess that would be my argument. But for a lot of people who don't believe in God, like yourself, that's maybe they don't really find that a sufficient argument. But go ahead.
I mean, my contention is merely that suppose that we grant that things can't come into existence by themselves. Well, then that doesn't leave us with one option, that leaves us with two. The one option is that the universe came into existence and something made it come into existence. Sure, that would be kind of point to a God or something like that. But the other option is that the universe didn't come into existence, right? And I'm just not sure how we can rule that out.
What do you mean by didn't come in? Because the universe obviously exists. So what do you mean like by?
Yeah, it didn't begin, right? Like it's always been here in one sense, in one form or another.
Yeah, that's a here's the thing, because what you said just reminded me is a quote of Baha'u'llah. He was a founder of the Baha'i faith. But one thing he says is that this universe has no beginning and no end. And that as long as there has been a God, there's been an existence. Now, I can't conceive that. I don't understand what that means. But in essence, he said what you said. So he said really it didn't really come into existence. Now, certain parts of the universe came into existence. Like they talk about the Big Bang Theory. And I'm sure you know what that is. And I don't think I think what science does is they try to make an all-encompassing theory to say the universe was nothing, but it began 14 billion years ago. A part of the universe that we know probably began 14 billion years ago, but there were other parts still in existence that we don't know. You know, I'm sure you're a scientist, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you know the theory that, or actually, it's a fact that we can only see so far. Like
Yeah.
light takes.
I mean, so it just seems like if we agree that like the kind of universe that we currently experience, that thing began like 14 billion years ago with the Big Bang. But if there was stuff before that, like just more universe, perhaps of a different kind, that just means that we don't need a divine being in order to explain why the Big Bang happened. You could have just had the stuff before it that caused it, right?
That's true, but I think there has to be some what they call, well, science calls it intelligent design.
Science doesn't call anything that, as far as I know.
You never heard the term intelligent design?
I've heard it, but scientists don't use it.
Well, that's who because I know religious people don't use that.
Religious people use it. That's who.
Religious people.
Yeah.
Now, I never ever heard that. I heard them talk about that, but I thought scientists use that because I've never heard religious people say that before. But anyway, no matter who says it, they talk about the term. Now, as far as I understand, intelligent design is the terminology people use who don't believe in God. Is that correct? I can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So, non-religious people who don't believe in God, don't think that intelligent design happened.
People who don't believe in God don't think intelligent design happened.
Right.
Oh, okay. That would make sense. Because people who are religious believe in a God. I just never heard that. I never heard Christians or Muslims use intelligent design.
Lots of Christians used that in the early 2000s as a way to try to push their religious tradition into schools.
Oh, okay. They must have stopped because.
Yeah, so the thing is I mean, you'll still hear Christians use that language, but it's not really in the public light anymore because they lost. Like they basically lost that cultural fight. So it's just not something that Christians are fighting over to get in schools anymore.
Oh, I see. Well, I still, believing in a God myself, I still think that there is an intelligent design which is separate from God. I don't think that means God himself, but there definitely is an intelligent design. I just think it would be impossible. Like, even if I wasn't religious, I would still think that it'd be impossible that this can come into existence all by itself. And you brought up the argument, well, how do we know it came into existence? Well, the Baha'i faith says that actually there is no beginning and end in the universe, which I don't comprehend. Although we do believe that, obviously things come into existence because we know stars are born, we know planets are born, they die. But the whole material existence itself is something that is infinite, which I can't.
Yeah,
really
that's the question. I mean, look. So if it's the case that we don't need if it's the case that our universe didn't come into existence, then it just seems like we don't need something to make it come into existence in this way. It just always was. Now that might be hard to conceptualize, but that doesn't make it not true.
Yeah, it could be true, but it could be true that there's a God also.
I think that we have. I mean, depending on your version of God, I suppose. Like, surely you don't think that like Zeus exists, right? Because
no.
Like, we can just go up and check on top of the mountain and check that there's no Zeus there, right? So in a similar way, I think that there's some versions of God that we can definitely rule out, right? Like, and honestly, I would say that kind of the theistic version of God is at least tricky to make sense of.
What do you mean by theistic? Define that.
So,
theistic.
so it's kind of like the bare bones version of God. It's a God that is all knowing, is all powerful, and is perfectly good, right?
Okay.
And also is usually responsible for like creating or maintaining the universe or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why it's tricky to make sense of that is because if God is supposed to be, if that kind of God is supposed to be the originator or the maintainer of our universe, then in some sense it has to be external from it. And that's hard to make sense of, because if it exists outside of space and time, I don't even know what it means for it to exist. I don't know what it means for it to take actions if there's no time in which it can take actions. I don't know what it means for it to have thoughts if it doesn't have the time to have thoughts. And yet somehow it's still supposed to be some sentient being, some being that has, you know, a will and things like that. And I mean, I'm not trying to present like some sort of logical argument, but there's at least some serious tension there that I can't make sense of for a being that's capable of having thoughts outside of time. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let me try to make sense of that for you, and from the Baha'i perspective. One thing we're told as Baha'is is that God does not have a direct connection to creation. I'll give you an example. If you draw a picture, right, you're the creator. You draw the picture. You
Yeah,
can't
sure.
come down and be in the picture. It's impossible. Like the picture's not aware of you. Like it's a material thing that has no soul, no living conscience.
Yeah, sure.
So you can't come down and be in the picture. In the same way, God can't come down and have a direct connection with man or this physical universe, which is why he sends prophets. And the prophets like Jesus, like Muhammad, like the Buddha, they're all what we call manifestations of God. And that's really the only way we can know God, because these prophets have tremendous power in this world, you know, to teach us about God. So in essence, when you and I are trying to think about an all-knowing God, we worship an imagination. Like maybe you asked me about Zeus. You know, some people actually worship that in the past.
Yeah.
And one thing the Baha'i faith says, at least their God has a physical existence. But when you try to imagine something in your mind, it doesn't even have that. It's just something that you imagine. So it doesn't mean like we're trying to imagine God, you're wrong. You know, if you're trying to pray to whatever, more power to you. But that, as you said, like what you're saying doesn't make sense. Yeah, because God is outside of space and outside of time. But really the representative of God on earth, which are the manifestations, that is the only God we can know. That's why they teach us.
Right, but I mean, like, so that doesn't really address at least I don't think it addresses the point that I brought, which is, like, sure, I mean, I can grant that, like, you know, if this God exists, then perhaps that God can send, like, emissaries, can send prophets so that we can know it better. The trouble is I don't even know what it means for something to do stuff. Like, okay, so this God exists outside of space and time. How can it take an action like sending a prophet if there's no time in which it can take that action? It doesn't seem like it makes sense. Now you might say, oh, well, you know, it's not supposed to make sense, like we just can't understand it. But if that's the view, then I don't know, it just seems like that we're better off not believing in something that we can't make sense of. Okay,
so you're saying like, okay, let me get your argument. You're saying, let's say you were God or I was God. We live in space and time. I could make this tree, or I could make you a piece of food like a hot dog. But since you and I don't exist in space and time, how could I make that hot dog?
It's more like when I think of a being with like a mind, a being with a will, and a being that takes actions, I think of these as like processes, right? Like if I'm going to, I don't know, if I'm going to form a thought, it's not just like the thought suddenly appears. It's like a process that's happening in my mind, and like I meander through the ideas, and you know I go from one thought to the next, and there's like a whole process that happens in time, right? It's not just a single event. It's like a series of events, an ordered series of events. And so, but if you don't have an ordered series of events, being that that's what time is, then it seems like you just can't have thoughts. And it seems like having thoughts or having a will, these things are required in order to take actions. Actions are also processes. Think like if you're, banging a hammer. Well, that hammer it's moving through space and time. So how are you going to take any sort of action if you don't have any time to take the action in? It seems like time is kind of necessary for the kinds of things that we would attribute to God, but God is supposed to be outside of time. And so there seems to be some sort of tension there.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Well, one thing, the arguments I'm giving you out since I'm behind, I'm basing them on that. Also with, common sense and reason.
Sure.
I try to put the two together to form, a conclusion that's based in reality.
Of course.
But one thing we are told in the Baha'i faith is that when you pass away, of course we believe you do go on, but in that world there is no space and time. So things do actually exist. Another reality exists where there is no space and time. So how would you reconcile that?
Well, I would say that seems to make my argument stronger, because if you're saying that, okay, maybe you could say that God has a special exception and God can do things even if there's no time. But if you and I are supposed to exist somehow non-spatially, non-temporally, maybe non-spatially I can get behind, even though I still don't know what that means. But you and I have thoughts. We have sequences of thoughts, right? And we do things that take time. I don't even know what it would mean for me to exist outside of time. I that's not even conceptually sensible to me, because my whole existence is a temporal one. That's what makes me a being. It's not that I exist. It doesn't even seem like it makes sense to talk about existence if it's not temporal. So I mean, it seems like time is absolutely a necessity even to talk about anything happening.
Yes. Yeah, in order for us to talk, we need time. In order for us to do things, we need time.
In order for us to experience things, we need time.
Yeah, that's true. But the thing is, as a Baha'i, I believe, obviously in the next world, and that we're told that does exist. The people go on as your physical body doesn't stay here.
Right.
But your spirit actually goes on and exists there. And he said, well, one thing he says, where the passing of days, the hours, he says that kind of time does not exist. So, I don't know what he means by that, but he says, the next world is sanctified above space and time. And he says, where we see the sun come up and come down, he says, that kind of time doesn't exist. But maybe there is still a sequence of events there, because people talk about when they die, they see their parents or their loved ones, and our parents know that we're here. Let's say our parents have passed on and we're still here. They're concerned about our existence. They can see what happens to us here. And so maybe there is time, there is some, as you would call time, but not in the way that we understand. But I do believe you in the sense, you can't have an existence where everything happens at once.
Well, that I also don't understand. I don't know what it means for everything to happen all at once.
Well, they say if there's no time, then obviously something can't happen in the future.
So what I could understand is some sense of, there's not a measure of time, there's no hours, there's no days, but there's still a distinction between past, present, and future. That I could understand, but then you still have time. It's just not measurable time.
Yeah, I can get behind that, because when you look at time in this, let's talk science for a minute. In the theory of relativity, the faster you go towards the speed of light, they've proven that time slows down, or you enter a gravitational field.
Right.
Time actually does slow down. So we can see now. I don't understand that either, and we're not talking religion here. We're just talking science. Because I don't understand how we're supposed to be in the same time, but two people can experience things differently depending on what time zone there is. So, if you went to another planet at the speed of light, you would age 4 years, let's say, but then you came back 100 years. would pass
Yeah,
here.
yeah, no,
Whose time is right? Whose time
right,
is right?
right. So time is relative, and that's why I say, like, I can get behind the idea of not having a measurable quantity of time while still having a distinction between past, present, and future, say. But that's not, and maybe that resolves the issue of time in the next world in the Baha'i faith, but it still doesn't resolve the issue of God being timeless, because I mean, time is of this universe, so I wouldn't know what it would mean to say that God is of this universe, but also the originator or the sustainer of this universe.
Yes. That's not something that I think I could understand to give an answer to. If he, we're told, or we believe that, that just like I give you the analogy of the paper or the artist in the art, you can't come down and be in your art, but you're the creator. In the same way, the creator isn't part of this universe in a sense of time, but still he has the power to make changes here, or indirectly to make changes, because we're told there's no connection directly between him and the creation, although the manifestation has tremendous power, we believe. But time
Yeah,
itself.
so
But
there is an out, which is just very dissatisfying. But the best out that I've heard of is namely that there's just like two different kinds of time. There's like the universe's time, which is our time, and then there's God time, and God exists in God time and has always existed in God time. And they're just separate. They're just two separate kinds of time. And so God can take actions in God time, and then God can create this picture in God time. And then once he creates the picture, physical time starts or something like that. That's an out. But it's really dissatisfying, because then it's like, okay, well, where did God time come from?
well, okay, but look at it this way, or consider it from this point of view. If you believe in an almighty God who's powerful, he's above time. Like you're saying, in essence, that God needs time to exist, or it's impossible. But
It seems like it, yeah.
He created the time. He created the existence. So he must be above that. Like it's like saying, for example, that you need, like, a person needs speech to communicate. But if you created a language, well, that's not a good example. Scrap that. But what I am saying is that if he's the creator, because one terminology when Baha'is pray, they have the omnipotent and the omnipresent. That means for space. That God's everywhere. In a spiritual sense. I don't know if there's a word he says. I think he says infinite too. He says, like, but that all applies to space. But I think if he's above that, and since if you believe in God, time is not above God. God's
Right.
above
And
time. So
and
he
so
actually created that, so he can exist outside of both. Since he's the creator. Because in essence, what you're saying is something is equal to God.
right, and that's what and you don't want to believe that. Like that contradicts the worldview, which is why I think that there's an issue that I mean, like, the way I think about it is, if something is not in time, then it's static, right? And minds are not static things. Minds are things that think, that do, that will. These are all verbs. I mean, you could have something that is all-knowing and is static, and that would be like a book that just sits there, just having all of the information inside of it, but it doesn't do anything. And so if your God exists outside of time, or beyond time, or above time, or whatever the correct phrase is, then it seems like your God would be more akin to a book than it would be to a being that does things,
I see what you're saying. Well, God has knowledge, but I think the only thing we can understand, well, this doesn't answer your question directly, but the only thing we can understand of God is the manifestations. But
Sure.
because we're trying to talk about something infinite that we really can't grasp, you know. Um, So the questions that you're asking, I don't even know if I have the answer. But my best argument would be that if he's greater than that, then
Yeah, no,
he
no,
can
and
exist
look,
outside.
like,
Did-
I think that it's possible to be rational, or it's at least possible to not be irrational, and believe in God, as long as you say, look, there are apparent paradoxes, there are apparent problems, but that's just because God is not possible. It's not possible for humans to understand God, right? There are just things about God that we just can't comprehend, and that's why these things seem impossible to us, and yet aren't. And if that's the position you hold, then fine. It's just not going to be compelling to me, because I'm going to have a really hard time believing in something that I can't even make sense of.
Well, okay, yeah, I understand. That's an honest place to come from. Because I think some religious people, they just believe in anything on faith without using the rationale. I've always been very rational too. But another thing to consider, that we're a human being, and that in order for us to understand things, something has to exist. And we have to
I
have the
agree.
capacity to understand it, and the senses, the physical senses.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I always thought this would be a good idea for a movie. Let's say there was a bunch of blind people born on Earth, but they didn't know they were blind. They had no concept they were blind, and they couldn't see the trees, the lakes, the
Sure.
skies. So, and then once they got that sense, their eyes would be open, so to say. So one thing we're told as Baha'is is that um, that the senses, that everything exists in different levels, like the vegetable level, the animal level, the human level, and each thing that exists don't have capacity to understand what ranks above it. So the animal will never understand what it's like to have a human mind, and a rock can't understand what it's like to
Oh
move
yeah,
around.
sure. I mean, you can never teach a fish calculus, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I, and like I said, I understand. If the position you hold is that human intelligence just isn't sufficient to understand what's going on, fine. I can understand that view. I just find it's like, and I'm not going to say like, oh, like you're entirely irrational for believing that, blah 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 blah. I'm just that just isn't compelling to me. Like I just like, unless I have some other reason to believe in the thing, it's just not a good reason as far as I can tell.
So your contention is that if there's no time, then it's impossible that God could actually exist and do things.
I mean, yeah, that seems to be an issue.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Well, yeah, it's not something I could prove except the argument I gave you, that God is
Sure.
above time, and it's not partner. One thing they talk about in Islam is joining partners with God on all levels. So maybe I would say that time is not equal to God, but if you're asking for a specific explanation on how that can actually exist, or to logically explain to you how God can exist if there's no time, it's not something I can do. I don't know if anybody could do that.
And that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Devin, I'm going to let you go because this seems like a natural
Thank
stopping
you very
point.
much. It was a
Is
good
that fair?
discussion. You got me thinking.
Of course. Yeah, thanks for being here, bud. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, let's bring on another guest. He was chill. He was a chill guy. Baha'is are always really nice. All right, there was a guy who was in here earlier who was very, very upsetty spaghetti. His name is Deathless Light, but I guess he wasn't patient enough. So, yeah, there is somebody who I wanted to bring up who was talking crap in the comments. Who was it? Oh, yeah, Nathaniel. Let's bring up Nathaniel. You're going to talk shit in the comments. You better get ready to come up. Nathaniel.
Nobody was talking crap. I just, what if you're wrong?
What if I'm wrong? As in like, what if like Shintoism is true?
No, I mean like, it says you're an atheist, which means you don't believe in any higher deity at all, right?
Yep.
What if you're wrong though?
Then there exists a higher deity, at least one. Yeah, that's what it would mean.
Yeah, and you'd be damned, though, right?
Not necessarily. Depends on what the higher deity is, right?
I mean, not what religion out there says if you don't believe in me, you're screwed. Or
Well,
which one doesn't say
So
that?
what if atheismo is real? Atheismo only sends atheists to heaven. Everybody else goes to hell.
No, atheists don't believe in heaven or hell.
No, I know. Atheismo is a possible divine being that, if it exists, only sends atheists to heaven. It sends everybody else to hell.
So you're answering my what if with a what if?
Yeah, I mean, you started it, so why can't I?
Yeah, my dad used to say if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk.
Okay, so then why'd you start with a what if?
Yeah, because what if you're wrong?
And what if atheismo's real?
That's what I'm asking.
If atheismo's real, then I'm doing what I should be doing.
Is it real?
I don't know. Well, I don't think so, but you know,
Okay,
if I'm wrong,
right?
if I'm wrong and atheismo's real, then I still go to heaven.
No, because you don't believe in it.
Atheismo only sends atheists to heaven.
But if you're an atheist, there is no heaven.
Right? But if the atheist is wrong and atheismo exists, then atheismo sends the atheist to heaven.
And where do you reference that from?
Atheismo? Oh, it goes back a long, long time. To the origins in ancient Sumer.
And there's like archaeological digs and everything that back that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Where at?
Atheistan.
Okay. Now let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Christian Baptist denomination, specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry, I'm eating lunch.
You're fine.
The Bible's been scrutinized heavily for at least 900 years, and there's no contradictions or anything found yet. What can you say about that?
It depends on what you mean by contradictions. If by contradictions you mean, given the plain readings of the text, these two things contradict each other, then yeah, I would say that there are contradictions pretty evidently. If you mean by contradictions that if you interpret the text in the right way, then you can find like wiggle room to get out of the contradiction, then I guess, yeah, then I guess you probably can find wiggle room everywhere. But that's just not what the words mean usually.
Can you give me an example of one?
Yeah, so there's a famous one where Jesus is crucified at 9 a.m. and then also at noon. You can go find the verses if you want.
Those were written from different people at different times, like hundreds of years apart.
These are in the gospel accounts.
Okay, but Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John weren't all sitting in a room together writing it, right?
I'm sorry, were they all there?
My question is, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John weren't all sitting there together writing it, right?
Right, but so then, if the accounts are supposed to be true, then one of them is contradicting another. That's what a contradiction is. Unless you're just saying that one of them's wrong, then you might not have a contradiction.
I'm saying if 4 or 5 people witnessed a car accident, you've heard this analogy, I'm sure. And one guy's going to say, oh, the driver of that car was wearing a blue shirt. And one guy says, well, the car was red. All of them are still going to say that there was a car accident. Sure.
But that still means that the accounts are contradictory, right?
No.
If I say that the guy who caused the crash was wearing a red shirt and you say that the guy who caused the crash was wearing a blue shirt, that's a contradiction.
There was a guy that caused a crash, though.
Right, but there's still a contradiction in the fact that I said he was wearing red and he was wearing a red shirt and you said he was wearing a blue shirt. That's still a contradiction.
Right, and like what you said was verbatim picking out one word, cherry picking one word here and there.
You asked for one. You asked for it. You said that there were no contradictions. I gave you one.
But then you told me when you expand on it.
Well, no, I don't think that you can get around this one for what it's worth.
There's also the timeline thing that you brought up.
Well, hold on. Before we pivot, Are
No,
you?
we're not
will you-
pivoting. You said.
no, I mean
you
you're.
said
This is a
your
pivot.
example.
We were talking about.
Your example of the contradiction was the noontime and the 9 in the morning.
Sorry, it was supposed to be apparently 3 p.m. and 9 a.m. I got the numbers wrong, but yes.
Now, can you? I'm on a phone. It sounds like you're clicking on a computer. Midday, in where they were at in the time that it happened, midday was nighttime.
Midday was what? Was what time?
Midday was nighttime.
I didn't say nighttime. I said
That's what I'm
9 a.m.
Right. But if you've got to pull up the actual scripture and see.
Yep, I have the actual scripture. So we have John 19:14. We have Mark 15:25, which we can pull up as well. We have Luke 23:44. All of these, like these accounts, they conflict each other. I mean, specifically Mark and John conflict each other.
Right. So how long was he up on the cross? Just like 10 minutes?
Well, it's not really relevant because we're talking about when he was put on the cross, when he was crucified, the beginning time, right?
So was the beginning time when he picked the cross up and started walking, or when
No,
they
it was
nailed him?
when they crucified him.
Right. So what is crucifixion?
Nailing someone to a cross.
Okay. So is that specifically the action that makes it called
Yes,
crucifying?
that's what the word means, yeah.
Or if I'm dragging a cross up a hill that you're going to nail me to, am I not being crucified?
No, you're not being crucified when you're dragging a cross, no.
If you're about to hang me up on the cross and I'm holding the cross, walking with it, am I not being crucified?
No.
I mean, if
you're
I
not
get
being
it-
crucified until you're actually being crucified.
If I get in my car to drive
Uh-huh.
and I start it and put it in drive, am I not driving?
You are not driving until, you're actually moving.
Okay. But
Right.
you know that's not true, right?
Yeah, sitting in your car is not driving.
Okay, so I can get a DUI with the car keys not in the ignition.
Right.
That's driving under the influence.
Yeah, you can get a DUI while being on a scooter, and you're not driving
Right.
a scooter. You can get a
Right,
DUI
but
while
it's
being on a
still called-
bicycle while
but it's still
driving.
called
It's
driving
that's because of
under
how
the
the statute is written. That's just
That's-
not what the word means. If you want to look up what the word means, we
You
can.
answered the question there.
But the point is that you are not being crucified while you are dragging the cross. That's not what crucifixion is. Crucifixion is an action of nailing someone to a cross.
Right, and driving under the influence is the action of physically driving, which you just said, if I'm not moving, I'm not driving. But
Yeah,
that's not
so
the case because the verbiage.
right, that's because the statute is not driving. The statute is I think it's in an operational motor vehicle is what the statute says.
See what you're helping my point here.
Well, no, but driving under the influence is it's in some sense it's a misnomer, right?
So, well, first of all, the first 5 DUIs you get in the state of Alabama are misdemeanors, but
I didn't say
that's-
misdemeanor, I said misnomer.
miss what?
Misnomer.
Oh yeah, I don't know what that word means.
It means it's a mistaken name. It's like a colloquialism. It's not literally about driving. You can just be sitting in a
So could the
operational motor
eyewitness-
vehicle and it counts.
So could the eyewitness testimony using the word crucified not be a misnomer?
I mean, so you're telling me that the Bible's wrong?
No. You told.
Well, so wait a minute. Does the word so yeah? So
Go
you're
ahead.
telling me that the Bible is incorrect in the way that it's describing what happened?
No.
But then it wouldn't be a misnomer.
So if I got a DUI without actually moving a motor vehicle, that would be a misnomer. But if I said
So
I'm getting,
a misnomer is just when a
person-
thing is named in an imprecise or incorrect way, right?
Right. So the human being that wrote, hey, when Jesus got crucified, he wasn't talking about 30 seconds before he was nailed up to the cross. Everybody knew he was going to get crucified. So on his way to the crucifixion, it would be safe to say that he was being crucified.
Well, so in fact, in the verse in Mark 15 verse 25, this is after they've already cast lots to see who got his clothes and stuff. This is after he already carried the cross. It says,
I'm glad you brought up the casting lots
in
part,
1521.
In Psalms, it
In
prophecies
1521, in 1521, they already describe him carrying the cross, and then later they crucified him at 9 a.m.
Because the Bible's in chronological order, right?
I mean, generally, when you're telling a narrative, the narrative's in chronological order. Yeah.
It's not.
So. Are you telling me that that they brought Jesus to Golgotha before they forced him to carry the cross?
Are you asking me if that's what happened?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
I wasn't there. I can tell you what the Bible says, but you're looking at it.
Yeah. So what does the Bible say?
I don't have it right in front of me, but you're looking at it, right?
Well, I mean, so in Mark 15, verse 21, it says, "A certain man from Cyrene, Simon, the father of Alexander and Rufus, was passing by on his way from the country, and they forced him to carry the cross. They brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. Then they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. And they crucified him. Dividing up his clothes, they cast lots to see what each would get. It was 9 a.m. when they crucified him. The written notice of the charge against him read, 'The King of the Jews.'" So, are you telling me that it was 9 a.m. when they forced him to carry the cross?
And another thing, the same thing that I brought up earlier. 9 a.m. today is not what 9 a.m. was back then.
Yeah, so
midday is
9 a.m. and noon are not the same thing, right?
Right, but you're not understanding what I'm saying, and you could search that. I can search it. I would just have to leave the app to search it up. Mm-hmm. But when one person says 9 a.m., okay, 9 a.m. today, right? Like right now, it's 12:46. Okay, what time is it where you're at?
It's 9:45.
It's what?
9:45.
Just told me 9 wasn't 12 though.
So are you telling me that the people who are writing these were observing it from 3 time zones away from each other?
No, what I'm telling you.
Because that's why you and I don't have the same time right now, because we have time zones.
What you're not.
And by the way, to be clear, in John it doesn't say 12, it says noon, and noon means something very specific. It's when the sun is highest in the sky, right?
That's what it means right now. What did it mean back then, buddy?
It meant the same. That's what noon means. That's what the word noon means. Noon is an English word. It didn't exist back then.
Okay. Thank you.
You know that there was a word. I mean, we can go find the Greek word if you want, and the word means the same thing. Okay.
You gotta look up the direct translation.
Okay. We're gonna do words don't mean words. I bet. Okay. Let's go look at the original Greek.
And again, there's no hate. I mean, Jesus was born, died, and resurrected for our sins. My right to the kingdom of heaven is just as much as yours. And everybody in the chat, my kids are fine. They just like to yell and scream and be crazy.
So what are you going to say when the times are different? When the original Greek says the times are different? Will you have a response for this?
It's 9 where you're at, and it's noon here.
So we're going to go look at the original Greek for both verses, okay? So in Mark 15:25, I'm just doing a direct translation of the Greek now. It was then the 3rd hour, and they crucified him. And in John,
what's the 3rd hour of the day?
It's about 9. Okay. At least that's how it's translated into English. And then in John 19:14, it says it was the 6th hour. So was it the 3rd hour or the 6th hour?
Hanging out with him. How long does it take to hang somebody up on a cross?
I don't think it takes 3 hours. Do you think it takes 3 hours?
How long did it last time you did it? How long did it take?
And just to be clear, when it was the 6th hour was before they put him on the cross. In John, it was before they put him on the cross, at least, in the text.
That goes back to the whole saying crucifixion isn't.
No. So in John, it doesn't say he was crucified at the 6th hour. That's when Pilate sat down at the judge's seat to give his words. Shall I crucify your king? We have no king but Caesar. That happened at the 6th hour. And then after that happened, the soldiers took charge of Jesus, made him carry his cross, and then they crucified him. So in fact, the crucifixion happened after the 6th hour. It's just the 6th hour is a place where we can, kind of like latch onto it.
Okay, final question.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll let someone else jump in. When the scripture says what time it was, does it not say it was about midday? It was about 9 o'clock?
So in Mark, it just says it was the 3rd hour. In John, it says it was about the 6th hour.
Now, can you put a realistic numerical value to the word like, as, or about?
Yeah, you can say that it's within, say, 30 minutes of it, because otherwise they would have said it's about the 5th hour, right?
If I said a bag of chips costs about $3, am I wrong?
If it costs $6, yeah.
Okay, where's the line?
Well, so we use about as a way of rounding, right?
Right.
And so you would round to say the nearest hour.
That's what you would do.
That's what the text does too.
Again, how long does it take to hang someone up on a cross?
Do you think it takes 3 hours?
I don't know. I've never hung anybody up on a cross.
That's what I'm asking. Anyway, the point is that the crucifixion, according to John, took place after the 6th hour, whereas the crucifixion, according to Mark, took place at the 9th hour, or at the 3rd hour.
And Psalms was written hundreds of years before crucifixion was even a form.
We're doing a pivot, but that's cool.
It's not a pivot.
It is.
We're talking about the validity of the scripture.
Right, and so we're currently talking about whether there's a contradiction here, and now you're pivoting to Psalms.
Well, there's not a contradiction. You're taking.
Yes, because you're right. It's not a contradiction if numbers don't mean what they mean.
iPhones with watches and stuff, dude.
Sundials. It's not a contradiction if words don't mean what words mean. That's true.
It's not a contradiction if they couldn't say it's 12:50 and 37 seconds. 2000
That's why I said it's about the 6th hour, but they could tell the difference between the 6th hour and the 3rd hour.
Thank you. So we're chomping bits over a couple of hours, and it took
and that's a contradiction.
It took well into a day to murder the guy.
If the crucifixion was at the 3rd hour, and also it was after the 6th hour, they're just not the same thing. They're contradicting each other.
Okay. Look, I hope God speaks to you and you have a change of heart. Hopefully I can see you in the kingdom of heaven, brother.
I hope that you give up your Christianity so that you can end up in the kingdom of atheismo.
Never.
Well, likewise. Anything else you want to talk about, Nathaniel? Oh, he left. Okay, well, that was fun. By the way, guys, if you're watching on YouTube or on TikTok, make sure to like the live. Make sure to subscribe if you're on YouTube, follow if you're on TikTok. Make sure to, ring the bell, all these things that you're supposed to do. Because if we can get this out to more people, we can have more interesting conversations. Now, I should say, I'm currently doing a horizontal stream on YouTube. I don't know how well this will do. This is something I'm trying out. People tend to stick around longer for horizontal streams. However, you get less eyes on you to begin with doing horizontal streams. Also, if for whatever reason you want to support the live stream, there are ways to do it. Super chats are one of the best ways. Cash App is another really great way. Various links in various places. I'll see you guys there. Anyway, let's move on to the next guest. Why is this person not connecting? Okay. All right, let's talk to graphics. I think not having a green screen background leads to big viewership. Really interesting. Graphics, how's it going?
Good. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing all right. Do you believe in God?
Yes.
Okay, and which one, just so I can know where we stand?
I'm a Christian.
Okay, cool. Now, what would you say is the most compelling argument you could give me that would convince me that the Christian God is real?
Physics.
Okay, yeah,
But
can you elaborate?
can we agree on some terms first?
Sure.
Would you agree that energy is essentially the attribute of a system to do work or cause change?
I don't think that that's really the best definition. But if you want to use that, then I guess we can.
Well, do you have a better one you want to use? I want to at least agree on this, so because none of this was going to work if we don't have that agreement.
Yeah, I would say that energy is the quantity that's conserved when your system has a time invariant Lagrangian.
Okay. So the questions I'm about to ask you, I know you know the answers to, but it's sort of good. I'm going to kind of step so I don't have to take an hour to do this. So, and I'm asking you this from the perspective of what do we normally see in nature, right? So, for example, when you have a hot object in a cooler environment, which direction does energy flow?
Yeah, so typically you'll have heat flowing from hot to cold. That's a version of the second law of thermodynamics.
Yeah. So, in the same way, if you have a container of gas, is it normal for the gas to isolate itself in a corner of the container?
Typically, it will not.
Okay. So, in a non-living system, energy tends to disperse, correct?
In living systems, it does the
tends to
same.
increase. What's that?
I mean, it happens in all cases, yeah.
Yeah. So in every system, essentially, entropy is increasing. Even if it's open, net entropy increases. We know that, right?
Yeah. So net entropy always increases. Entropy itself doesn't necessarily have to increase in all systems.
Yeah, if it's an open system, it can. Yeah, absolutely. But even if it's an open system, you would agree when you look at all those systems together, net entropy is still increasing.
So as long as you can make your system big enough so that it closes up, so that the system is closed, then the entropy will, the second law of thermodynamics says that entropy will increase.
Okay.
But if you have a whole bunch of open systems and then together they're still open, then no, it's not necessarily the case that the entropy has to increase.
There doesn't have to be a subsequent parallel increase in entropy?
There could be an increase in entropy somewhere else, right? Outside of your collection of open systems. Generally, yeah. Okay. At least like in standard classical mechanics, yeah.
Right. So and here's the real question. Do we normally see systems in nature? And I've asked you this before, and the answer you gave me was natural lasers, which actually doesn't work. Do we see anywhere in nature where systems are increasing in energy and decreasing in entropy without a living thing involved?
So why don't natural lasers work?
That's not an example of a system increasing in energy and decreasing in entropy.
Yeah, it is.
Without a living thing involved.
That's what a laser is, yeah. A laser is a system that as you increase the energy, the entropy goes down. Yeah.
So anybody in this room can fact check me. What you just said is wrong. So anybody in here can fact check that. Natural lasers do.
The whole bit, I mean, so what is the case is that the entropy of the system larger than it will increase because the second law of thermodynamics is still maintained. But the entropy of the natural laser itself, that will go down.
Yeah, okay. What you just said, you gave an example of a system in nature that's increasing in energy and decreasing in entropy without a living thing involved.
Yeah.
A natural laser is not an example of that.
Sure it is. The way that you add energy to the system is via some sort of external source.
You have 530 people in here that can fact check me right now.
Yep,
You're
they can fact check it.
Wrong.
I mean, they can fact check you too. I mean, look, so do you understand how a laser functions?
Absolutely.
Okay, so a laser.
Can you explain to me how a natural laser is increasing in energy and decreasing in entropy?
Yeah, I will. Please. So the way. So first, I'm going to start with the regular laser. The way that any laser functions is that you have a system with some degree of energy states, say, and those like the energy states of the atoms or the gas or the ions or whatever it might be, and when you want to form a laser, you want the energy states in those atoms, those ions, that gas, whatever it is, to be mostly in the high energy state. And the way that you do that, of course, is you add energy to the system to bring the electrons or whatever from the lower energy state, its default ground state, to a higher energy state. And in doing so, by populating just the higher energy states, you have fewer what are they called? Fewer microstates corresponding to all of the particles being in a high energy state, or many of the particles being in a high energy state, than you do when they're in thermal equilibrium. A laser kind of by definition is a non-thermal equilibrium system. And so what you're going to end up with is you're going to end up with a system where you have very high energy because you've added a lot of energy to it. And by adding energy, you're reducing the number of microstates because you're forcing all of the electrons into a high energy state. And so by reducing the number of microstates, you're reducing the entropy.
Yeah, you're talking about population inversion. The problem
Absolutely.
is that is not an example, Blitz, of a violation of this concept. What you're saying
Sure it is.
Okay, let me ask
Population
you this. Okay.
population
Does
inversions have negative
laser
entropy.
require energy input from the outside?
Yeah.
Okay, so because it requires energy input from the outside to reach the higher states of the pop, that's not an example of an increase in energy and a decrease in entropy without a living thing involved.
Sure it is. The lasing medium increases its energy and its entropy goes down.
But there's no spontaneous creation. There's no complexity being created. It's using outside energy.
I'm sorry, what does that have to do with the claim that you just made? The
What is a
entropy
decrease of
decreases, the
entropy?
energy. It means that
What
the
is a
number of
decrease of
microstates corresponding to the macrostate decreases.
It's an increase of complexity, is it not?
No, it's related to the number of microstates.
So a decrease in entropy is not an increase in complexity.
No, not necessarily.
Wow. Okay. So what
Entropy
you're
and
saying,
complexity
Dr.
are not the same thing. In fact,
great.
complexity is a separate thermodynamic concept.
Wonderful. I just
They're
want to
often
get it on
correlated,
record.
but yeah, they're not the
I just
same
want to
thing.
get it
No.
on record in front of 528 viewers.
Please do.
That what you're saying, okay, everybody can fact check me, folks.
Yep,
What
everybody
you're
can. In
saying
fact, some
is
people
that
already have, and
natural
I've found that I'm
lasers-
correct.
Wonderful. Okay, natural lasers, you're saying, is an example of a violation of the fundamental laws of physics.
Which law of physics does this violate?
That we do not see in nature that happening, increases in energy and decreases
Sorry, which
in
law
entropy.
of physics is it?
There's nowhere in nature, Dr.
Which
Blitz,
law of
that
physics
this
is
happens.
it? You keep just saying there's nowhere in nature that it happens,
systems
but
do
where's
not increase in energy and
which
decrease
law
in
of physics
entropy
is
without a
this?
living thing involved.
which law of physics is this?
Systems in nature do not
Is this
increase
like-
in energy.
I'm sorry,
and
is
decrease
this
in-
like graphics second law
No.
of thermal
This
complexity?
is what's funny about you, Dr. Blitz. Everybody here can look it up. I want
Yeah, you can.
everybody to fact check me.
What's
Type into
the
Google.
law of physics?
Everybody
Graphics, what's
type
the law
into
of
Google.
physics? Graphics, name the law of
Systems
physics.
in nature do not increase in energy and decrease in entropy without a living thing involved. That's a fact of
Graphics,
science, sir.
graphics, what's the law of physics?
I just told you.
So it doesn't have a name? Because laws of physics typically have equations
Sir, the
associated with
second
them.
law of thermodynamics dictates that everything you're saying is completely ridiculous. We
No.
know for a fact.
In fact, what I'm
that
saying doesn't
everything-
violate the
What's
second
a
law of
proton made
thermodynamics.
of, Dr. Blitz? What's a
Three
proton made
quarks and a whole bunch of gluons.
of? Okay, and what happens between these quarks and gluons?
They interact with each other.
Yeah, the gluons mediate a color charge, right?
Yeah. Why are we
That's
pivoting?
a system, right?
Why
Is
are
that
we
a
pivoting?
system? Is that a system?
Why are we pivoting?
It's not pivoting. Is that a
promise this
system
isn't a
in the
pivot?
universe?
Yeah,
Is
you
a
can
proton,
describe that as a system is just
Okay.
sort of any subdivision of
Are you
stuff.
an adherent of the current cosmological model, the Big Bang?
Probably not in the form that you understand it.
Okay, you're not an advocate of the Planck, but you're not an advocate of the current cosmological model.
Probably not in the way that you understand it.
Okay, did the universe start out as an energy dominant state?
I don't think that it makes sense to
With
talk about the
fundamental particles
universe
of
being an
physics?
energy dominant. I don't really know what that means.
That's the current cosmological model. You don't even
Not
know
really.
current terms.
So graphics, the current cosmological model, lambda CDM, that's the name, is that about 13.8 billion years ago, the universe was in a so-called radiation-dominated state.
Energy dominant, yes, there was
nope,
no matter.
radiation-
It was energy
radiation-
dominant with
radiation
fundamental
dominant.
particles.
Radiation dominant.
It's called energy dominant, right?
It's not.
Yes, it is. You
and
can
then
fact
about-
check me again.
About
Absolutely.
a second, and then about a second later, if I remember correctly, it's swapped to being matter dominated, and then 5, 6, 7 billion years later, it's swapped to being dark energy dominated.
Great. So when it goes from fundamental particles to the first atom, is that an expression of an increase in complexity?
Are you using Kolmogorov complexity, or are you using some other notion?
Give me a break, bro. Are you serious?
What kind of complexity
you have
are you using to
protons,
quantify?
neutrons, and an electron shell, and you're gonna honestly tell me that that's not an increase in complexity?
Well, so are you using Kolmogorov complexity, or what notion, or how are you quantifying complexity here?
Is an atom an isolation of energy?
I think that that's an incoherent sentence. You want to try again?
It's incoherent. Do you need to
Yeah.
isolate energy, Dr. Blitz, and time
Energy
and
is not a
space to create
substance.
a system?
Energy is not a substance.
Okay. Do you have to isolate fundamental particles of the universe to create an atom?
Do you have to isolate fundamental part? No.
Oh, you don't have to bring them into.
They can be
one
like
location.
there can be other stuff nearby. Oh, you mean co-locate them? Yeah.
You don't
So
have to take
electrons and
fundamental
protons and neutrons have to
okay.
be co-located.
Right, wonderful. So
Yeah.
since atoms didn't exist when it was radiation dominant, and going from no atoms to the first atom is obviously an increase in complexity.
Oh, do you want to defend that? Do you want to define what you mean by complexity here? Do you mean like Kolmogorov complexity, or do you mean some other thing?
Are you telling me that you're going to argue that a proton is not complex?
No, I'm going to argue that you don't actually know what you're talking about.
Oh, I think I
I'm
do.
gonna
And
press
I
you on
think
it.
anybody that fact checks me will know I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay, so define
I already
complexity for
told
me.
you. Okay, what's the difference between
Define.
U235
I'm sorry.
and
You've
U238?
asked me like 40 questions. Define complexity.
Dr. Blitz, if I have to
Can you do
define
it?
complexity for you,
Yeah. Do it.
honestly, I think it's
Honestly,
offensive.
you're running.
Yeah, I'm running.
Yeah.
I'm running from defining
You're running from a
complexity.
single question. You're running.
It's like me asking you to define ice cream.
I
We
could
know what
define ice cream,
complexity
yeah.
is, Blitz.
I don't think
We
you
know,
do.
if you walk into a room, Dr. Blitz,
I don't
and there's
think
a
you do.
sandcastle on the table, is that complexity?
I don't think you know what complexity is.
Okay, define complexity for us, Dr. Blitz.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not doing it for you. Define it. Define it in
Okay.
the way that you're using it.
Sure. So I'll look up. Let's do the Merriam-Webster dictionary.
Oh, I'm sorry. You don't know it off the top of your head?
Oh, I want to make sure I'm right, Dr. Blitz. Let's
Okay.
make sure we're fact checking each other here, sir.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's bring up the
ahead.
Merriam-Webster definition, since you don't want to do it. By the way, anyway, never mind. The state or quality of being intricate or complicated.
I'm sorry. Are you looking at Merriam-Webster? Because I just pulled up the Merriam-Webster and it doesn't say
Something
that.
complex. The complexities of the murder trial. The quality or state of being
There you go.
complex.
Okay,
The
yeah, so
complexity
something
of the contract.
complex. Right, so now click on complex. Right? Because,
Okay.
that's kind of like what we have to do because it's
A
using
whole
roughly the
made
same
up
word.
of complicated or interrelated parts. So let's click on complicated.
Sure.
Consisting of parts intricately combined.
Yeah, sure. So when you say complex,
You
you just
didn't
mean
know that?
things combined. I knew it. You're just not using it in the way that physicists use it.
Intricately combined. Intricate. You're not even reading the definition. Consisting of parts
Mm-hmm.
intricately combined.
Sure. If you want to
Blitz.
use that definition, you can.
Bro.
In that case,
honestly,
I
bro.
wouldn't say that an atom is complex. No.
Really?
No.
Okay. What's the
It's not
difference
very
between
intricate.
U235 and U238, Blitz?
The number of neutrons. U238
Right.
has 3 more neutrons, of course.
Right. So you're telling me we have atoms that have you're telling me that that's not it's baffling, honestly.
I'm
Not
sure
only
it
were
is.
you wrong about natural lasers and you won't admit it,
People
but
have
you're
already
trying to
fact-checked you and found that I was
oh,
actually correct
really?
about it.
I
Yeah.
promise you, Blitz, I'm going to make a video about this afterward. We'll let
Do it.
real physicists fact check me. Anybody can Google. I tell
I
you,
am a real physicist, but okay.
Let's do it right now. Let's do it right now. I'm gonna read from you actual information that is not just from my mouth. You can actually hear what physics actually teaches, folks.
Yeah.
So let's look up.
Do we agree that natural lasers exist?
We're gonna get to it right now.
Sorry, do we agree
You're
that
saying
natural lasers exist?
lasers.
Here, let me just show you that natural lasers
Natural
exist.
lasers exist, Dr.
Okay,
Blitz.
natural
They do
lasers exist. Now ask, is the entropy of the population inversion lower than the entropy of the thermal equilibrium state?
Hold on. Let's just go to what the physicists actually said, right? Are natural lasers increasing in energy and decreasing in entropy?
Yeah, what did the physicists say?
I'm going to tell you right now.
Oh, you're asking ChatGPT, huh?
No, I don't use ChatGPT.
Okay, so what physicist are you asking?
Let me give you a good source.
What physicist are you asking?
I'm going to give you a good source right now. I don't know why I should have to do this. It's embarrassing for you that you don't understand this, but it's okay. It's not surprising.
It's actually like super obvious, which is the embarrassing part, right? So
No,
the
no,
thing
it's
is
super obvious
population
that you don't know
inverted
what you're
systems have
talking about.
lower entropy. Do you know how to compute the entropy of a discrete energy system?
Dr. Blitz, a natural laser is not an example of a violation of the law I presented. The fact that
You
you
didn't
don't
present
know that,
the law.
I promise you.
You didn't present the law.
I promise you.
What's the law?
I promise you that when we get done here, I'm going to
Yep.
make sure that everyone knows that you have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, so tell me,
For example,
is the entropy
radiometric dating.
lower? I'm sorry, I'm not going to let you
Radiometric
pivot.
dating.
I'm not going to let you pivot.
Yeah,
Is
you
the
don't want to
entropy
pivot
lower?
because, of course, you
Yeah, I
don't.
don't want you to pivot because you're getting smoked
go
here.
ahead.
So is the
Oh,
entropy
I'm
lower
getting
in the
smoked.
Yeah, is the entropy lower
Dr. Blitz.
during the population inversion or in thermal equilibrium?
Dr.
How do the
Blitz.
entropies compare?
Dr. Blitz, like I said,
How do the entropies
685
compare?
people. I'm going to say it again.
How do the
Dr. Blitz
entropies
is
compare?
completely wrong.
How do the
Anybody that
entropies
knows
compare?
physics in this room can fact check my statement. Nowhere in nature do we see systems increasing in energy and decreasing in entropy without a living organism involved.
That's a cool
in that
assertion.
process.
What happens to
That is a
what happens
fact
to
of
the
nature.
entropy?
It's
That's cool.
not just an assertion.
That's cool. It is just an assertion. Now, is the entropy during population inversion higher or lower than the thermal equilibrium state? Bro, can you answer the question, bro?
I don't really need to. I've already won, so I'm not really worried about it. I'm just kind of
Okay.
sad for you, actually.
So, to be clear, you don't even know the answer.
I'm actually pulling up some actually like
I'm sure.
credentialed sources so I can make sure that everybody in this
sure.
room knows that you're a fraud. Yep.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yep. That's
So-
what I'm going to do right now. So just wait a second. Just give me a second.
Okay, but you still don't know how to compute the entropy of a discrete energy system? Is that still true?
Okay. Positivity of entropy production for the 3-level maser. The study demonstrates that a 3-level maser, when coupled to thermal baths, exhibits positive entropy production, aligning with the second law of thermodynamics. The
Sorry,
analysis
where are you reading from?
confirms that such systems do not spontaneously
Where are you
decrease in
reading
entropy
from? Where are you
without
reading from?
external. It's a study that was done, bro.
Can you show me can you give me the name of the study, please?
Absolutely. I'll send you. I'll message you all the links I'm
Just
about
tell it
to
to me
read.
right now. Just read me the
The
title.
maser as a reversible heat
Just
engine.
read me the
This
read me the
paper
title.
I'm going to send you all these papers.
I don't want you to send it to me later. Just read me the title.
This paper, I have to send you links. They're
What's
actual papers. Sir.
I can pull up the paper. I have academic access.
Okay.
So
perfect.
tell me the name of the paper. What's the name of the paper?
I'm getting it for you.
Scroll up to the top, my guy, or are you pulling it
American
off of AI?
Journal of Physics. It's in
What's
the
the
American
name
Journal
of the paper?
Physics.
What's the name of the paper?
I'm telling you what it's in. It's called the maser as a reversible heat engine.
Okay, let's pull it up. Oh, this is even really accessible. You don't even need academic access.
Oh, you don't need academic access on JSTOR either. That gives you no excuse to be so dumb.
It's actually not downloading, and I don't know why. It says it's in progress. One sec, let me pull it up somewhere else.
Yeah, I bet. You're an embarrassment, bro.
I'm sure you think so. I'll just pull the DOI and then I'll go grab it with
You do
my
that. I tell you
own
what,
academic
everybody
access.
in this chat can fact check. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a PhD.
We're pulling
but
it up
of
right now.
course, He's absolutely,
We're pulling it
yeah,
up
pull
right
it
now.
up.
Okay,
And
so-
do me a favor, Dr. Blitz. I'm going to send you some more papers to read. And when you find out how wrong you are, I want you to come back and apologize
Wait a
to me,
minute.
okay?
I'm sorry. So what was the phrase that you were reading?
I'm going to send them to you, buddy. I'll send you all the papers.
Can you reread the phrase that you read?
No, I'm going to send them to you.
I'm sorry, reread it because I just did a Control F through the entire article, and I don't see the thing that you read.
Yeah, I don't think you understand what I said. So let me say it again, and you explain to me.
Say it
what-
again. Say the phrase again. I'll do Control F because you're
This
quoting the paper, right?
This paper explores the thermodynamics of an idealized maser system functioning as a
So-
reversible heat engine. It illustrates
funny.
it illustrates how the conversion of heat
You guys
into
gotta see this.
coherent
This is so funny.
radiation and mechanical work adheres to the second law, meaning you're wrong.
Hold on,
Do you
this is so
understand what I
funny.
just said?
Yeah, I
It's
do.
so funny.
It's
Bro,
funny.
you're a fraud, and
It's
the
funny
reason
because
you have
you're
viewers is
fabricating
because they're
stuff.
uneducated. The viewers you have are uneducated, so they follow you because they don't know well enough to know you're a fraud. I'm going to out you as a fraud.
Here.
Okay, everybody, I tell you what.
Here
Again,
we go. Okay,
I
so
want you to fact
you guys
check
can
the
see
statement
this,
I'm
right?
making.
So I'm going to do Control F for the phrase "this paper."
Read the whole thing.
This paper is not anywhere in this paper. You're using ChatGPT, my guy.
No, I'm using an abstract summary of the paper. Doofy, why don't you read the paper?
Why isn't this paper
Read
is
the
not
paper.
Anywhere in the paper? And in fact, nowhere in the paper does it say that the entropy increases.
reading
I already
Dr.
searched for
Blitz.
it. I already searched through it.
Read the paper. You did
why
not
would
search through it. You just
Why would
pulled
I
it
do
up.
you the favor? Why would I do you the favor when you use
refused to read
ChatGPT?
information presented. You were just
So you
given
use
a
ChatGPT.
peer-reviewed- Bro, I just
Wait,
gave
I'm
you
sorry.
an actual
Can you read a quote from the paper?
peer-reviewed article.
Can you read a quote from the paper, please?
Can you read a quote? Read the paper. You have it right there.
I have it pulled up. Can you read me a quote from the paper, please?
Dr. Blitz, the paper
I'm sorry,
proves
can you
that
read me a
what
quote
you're
from the paper,
saying
please?
is absolutely wrong.
I'm sorry. Can you read me a quote from the paper, please?
Not read nothing for you, buddy. You're a fraud.
Just any sentence from the
You're a
any
straight
sentence.
fraud, bro.
Any sentence.
You're a fraud, Blitz. Read the
Okay,
paper.
so you don't even have the paper pulled up.
You pulled it up. You refused to
did.
read it because you can't.
Well, I mean, I'm
You
looking at
can't
it
read
right
it,
now.
Blitz.
I'm looking
Start
at it right
reading it.
now. I'm not
Start
going to read
reading
it for you. You don't even have the paper pulled up. I do. You just saw it.
I have the paper pulled. I have the paper downloaded in PDF form. Why
Okay,
don't
so
you
then
read
pull
it?
up a quote from it.
Start reading it, Dr. Blitz. What are you scared of? Why are you afraid, Dr. Blitz?
You're using
Why won't you start reading it?
ChatGPT to make a
Start
claim
reading
when
it
you
then.
haven't actually read this
If
paper.
I use ChatGPT, then read the paper.
You want me to read a 7-page paper on live while you sit there smugly?
Read even an excerpt from the paper and tell us what it means.
This is the first. I could just read you the first sentence of the introduction. An essential characteristic of a maser, a quantum generator of microwave radiation, is a state selector in which a beam of atoms or molecules passes through an inhomogeneous electric or magnetic field. That's the first sentence. Now, can you read me a sentence?
What does it mean?
I'm sorry, can you read me a sentence?
What does it mean?
I'm sorry, can you read me a sentence?
I don't think you know what it means.
I'm sorry, can you read me a sentence? That'll be the fourth time I'll ask.
I don't think you know what it means. I think you're proving that you don't know what it means.
Can you read me a sentence, please?
I provided evidence and you refused to read it.
Can you read me a sentence, please?
Dr. Blitz, I'm asking you to do that, buddy.
This is your evidence. Can you read me a sentence from your evidence?
There's a reason you won't read it.
There's a reason you won't read it, and it's because you don't have it.
Okay, so here we go. Ready?
Yep.
Can you find this? Find we explain.
We explain. Okay, what's the next word?
What does it say? Read it.
What's the next word? Just give me the next word.
We explain the.
Okay, so so this is the third, fourth, fifth sentence in the abstract. We explain the thermodynamics of an idealized maser system, which works as a reversible heat engine. And show how the second law reveals its validity during the conversion of heat into coherent radiation and mechanical work. Yeah, what does
that mean, Blitz?
Where does it say that the entropy increases?
Oh, for the love of God, bro. What did you just read? What does that mean you just read?
So, do you know what a reversible heat engine is?
You won't answer a question. What does it mean?
So a reversible heat engine is a system, it's a complete system in which the entropy doesn't change. Now what's happening is you have to add energy to the system in order to get the population inversion. So the entropy of the thing that you're, the thing that's giving off the radiation, that's going to increase, and then the entropy of the maser itself, the population inversion. Well, as it gets to population inversion, the entropy will decrease.
Does that statement also mean that the maser operates within the constraints of the second law of thermodynamics?
Having a decrease of energy or a decrease of entropy when your energy increases is not a violation of the second law of thermodynamics.
Okay, I'm going to read the statement again, and I'm going to ask you the question
It's not a violation of the second law of thermodynamics.
It's not. It's telling you that it's in line with the second law.
The entropy decreasing is not a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. Do you not understand that?
I'm saying it's not a
so
violation.
Then what is this? So then what's the point that you're trying to prove?
You use natural lasers as a violation of that law.
No. I'm not saying that they're violating the second law of thermodynamics. I never made that claim.
When you say that systems in the universe are increasing in energy and decreasing in entropy with no living thing, you are violating the laws of physics.
It doesn't violate the second law of thermodynamics, no. You just need a larger increase in entropy somewhere else.
I really don't think that you're credentialed to even talk about any of this. I think you're just an angry atheist, bro.
I'm sure. I mean, I could go find my PhD if you want.
I just asked you
I could go
basic
cite like more than a dozen
questions
papers that
about
I've published in the
physics
last 3
and you fail
years.
to understand. You can't even understand basic
Can you
information.
Can you elaborate on what the third law of thermodynamics is, or what the first law?
Dr. Blitz, I tell you what. Now,
Tell
bro.
me. Can you tell me what the third law of thermodynamics
I tell you
is?
what. You're an embarrassment. You've wasted enough of my
I'm sure.
time. I'll make some videos about you. You have a
I'm
nice
sure
day.
you
You're
will.
a sharp.
Okay. Man, guy came in really hot, and he had absolutely nothing. All right, let's read a super chat. We have a few super chats. From Fear's Interaction with the $10. My Uber was supposed to be here at 9, but didn't show up till 3 p.m. Must have been a Christian. That's funny. And also, thank you, Fear's Interaction. From $10 from the Nightman Cometh, graphics has to be a flat earther. He has that unique Dunning-Kruger confidence. I suspect so. Actually, no, maybe not. And then from Judas with the $5. The only embarrassing thing is graphics crashing out on lives. Hope they get some help. Yeah, so look, the thing about population inversion is that it's a non-equilibrium state. The entropy of a non-equilibrium state can absolutely be, well, okay, it can be an equilibrium state. It's just not a Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution, for example, or a, what's the other, Einstein-Fermi distribution? Is that the other one? Anyway, and we got another $5 from Fear's Interaction with graphics is a great cautionary tale against homeschooling. This is actually a mistake. I used to think that homeschooling had worse outcomes for socialization and for educational attainment, but actually homeschooling, and I looked this up a while ago, so I could be misremembering, but if I remember correctly, homeschooling actually does about just as well on average as public schooling. By the way, and I'm going to shill for myself because I may as well. Alice the Jacobite says, let me up for a sec. Okay, I'll let you up in a second, just a minute. But thank you for the $5. Bose, Einstein, and Fermi Dirac. Yes, thank you. I hate StatMac, by the way. So I'm going to shill for myself for just a second. For those of you who are watching who have like an unbelievable amount of fuck you money, this only applies to you. If you want to support a scientist, not just in their social media endeavors, but in their research, there's a way to do it. Go to my Patreon. There's the Medici tier Patreon thing, which is an absolute shit ton of money, but you will get personal acknowledgments in all of my publications. So consider it if you have an absolute fuck you amount of money. Anyway, I'm going to bring on Alice because, she sent $5 to come up, and I'm sure she has something useful to say. And then we'll kick her off. Alice, how's it going?
Hey, thank you. Finally, I was like, I had this feeling that if I sat in the comments and just talked mad shit, maybe I'd get your attention. But
see,
no.
look,
So
we're
I know
mutuals, so like, I probably wasn't gonna bring you up anyway.
Dang.
But anyway,
well,
go
I
ahead.
bought like 3 minutes of your time, so
Yeah.
we good. But I know I can't convince you to believe in Hashem, but I might be able to recruit you to my cult.
Sorry, can you repeat that last bit?
I might be able to recruit you to my cult.
To your cult? I don't want to be in your cult.
Yes.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
So we follow Lion the Lozenge Man, and there's the only requirements are that you have to follow 5 of the 7 Noahide laws and 1 personal thing. And the 5 Noahide, you know the 7 Noahide laws. Obviously, You're an atheist, so you can join. You just have to worry about blaspheming and believing.
You're cutting out a little bit.
The one. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So you know the 5 Noahide laws, or the 7 Noahide laws. You only have to follow 5. And then the other one is that you have to carry at all times, unless you're like in your underwear, but anytime you're out in public, for yourself or for others, at least 5 lozenges. So that if you ever run into somebody, you can give them.
I can maybe get behind this. I could use a lozenge right now, honestly. You've caught me at I'm at a weak point in my life. Maybe your cult will be able to suck me in. Alice, I'm gonna let you go, but I'll consider it. Lion the Lozenge Man. I'll consider it. Maybe I'll start carrying lozenges. All right, let's bring up a guest though. Let's bring up Maxwell. Oh, actually, do I have any guests from YouTube? I don't know why, but their videos are not popping up. Maxwell, how's it going?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. Do you believe in God?
I think it's possible.
Okay, but do you believe in God?
I'm not sure, but I think that's the fundamental thing I'm saying, which is like, from a scientific basis, You look at the evidence available and you try to, essentially make conclusions based on that evidence about what you think is the most likely. But, we really don't have any ability to make any measurements about what exists outside of our universe. We can only rely on theory. And so to the extent that we're creating theories or ideas about what exists outside of our observable universe, I think that any idea is just as good as the next. So atheism is an inherently more likely than some sort of deity in that respect.
I don't think that follows. You can reason about things without having direct empirical access, unless you're an empiricist, I guess.
Well, I mean, so the idea, look, I would never suggest that I think that the deities or the religions that, are like in the Bible or Christianity or whatever, those are clearly not accurate. But is there some sort of deity that exists outside of the scope of our universe? I think that's a tough thing to really say conclusively no. We just don't really have much evidence for what exists outside of our universe. I agree with you.
Well, wait, are you an empiricist?
Yeah.
So you don't think that anything can be deduced outside of experience?
I think that you can make deductions, right? Sure.
Okay, then you're not an empiricist. Do you think that there are ways to know, there are ways that you can know about the world that we occupy without actually like doing an experiment, collecting data?
Yeah, so then if that's the definition of an empiricist, then I would say I'm not. Of course, you can make deductions about things.
So then why can't we deduce things about a God that exists outside our universe?
You can, but I think that the degree of certainty is going to be lower if there's no ability to collect evidence, direct evidence to support it.
So typically deductions are stronger than evidence, right?
I think that deductions are the important framework from which to collect evidence, right? I mean, I agree with you that just evidence.
Deductions follow logic. Deductions follow necessarily, right? Like, if it's true that all men are mortal, and if it's true that Socrates is a man, then it's 100% certain that Socrates is mortal, right?
Yes.
That's stronger than evidence. Evidence will only ever get you to a high degree of certainty, right? That's the whole business. The whole scientific endeavor, it gets you to high degrees of certainty. It doesn't get you to absolute conviction, if you will. But if you can make deductions, if ideally you can make deductions, and then you don't even need evidence. The deductions just follow.
Yeah, I mean, so I get, the deduction you just outlined there regarding what was it you said again about Aristotle? Like if
Socrates is or all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal.
Yeah, so I think the reason that works is because there are aspects of what you just said that are laws that we can recognize to be true. We know that if A, then B, then B, then C, then C, then D, or whatever, right? Whereas when we're considering what exists outside of our universe, we just don't have any basis upon which to create such a defined assumption, right? And again, I'm not saying that God does exist or doesn't exist. I'm just saying, look, I think you'd have to agree that when we're talking about something that exists outside of the framework of our universe, there's just a higher degree of uncertainty because we just don't have much or any evidence.
I would say that there is a higher degree of uncertainty. That doesn't mean that, well, I would say that, okay, yeah, let me clarify. I would say that there's a different kind of support or a different kind of justification for views, right? Typically we would rely on empirical things to form views in our universe. When we're talking about things that are, in some sense outside of our universe, whatever that might mean, you have to use a different form of justification. You have to use a different type of reasoning to be able to come to rational conclusions about it. And look, all I'm saying is that we can do that, and that's been done.
Yeah, we can do it. It's just, I think we would all agree that it's with a low degree of certainty. Like I think.
No, I don't think that necessarily follows. I don't think that just because you're using a different kind of justification, that you therefore have less certainty than compared with like empirical justification.
You don't think that not having any evidence to test your hypothesis makes it inherently less strong?
So I am more certain that, I don't know, that there exists a sixth order conformally invariant tensor in 6 dimensions than I am that the sun exists.
Well, look,
And
I'm not
the
a physicist.
former
Yeah.
follows mathematically. The latter is an empirical observation.
Again, look, I'm not a physicist, so I'm not going to be able to engage with you on a higher level physics concept.
So-
Unlike
so-
the
so-
joining in previously, I'm not going to pretend that I understand.
So I only bring that up because the former can be proven mathematically. It's deductively true. The latter
Yeah.
is based on empirical observations. And so
Yes.
I'm more certain about the deductively true thing than I am about the empirical observations.
Yeah, but wouldn't you say that like mathematical truth in that sense is dependent upon having axioms from which to base your conclusions and your deductions?
Yeah.
Right? We don't have axioms to make deductions from.
Sure we do.
Or what exists outside of the universe.
Sure we do.
What are the axioms
I just gave you an axiom, or I just gave you a theorem that depends on axioms in 6 dimensions, and 6 dimensions certainly don't exist in our universe.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but we don't know. I mean, I could be wrong, but wouldn't you say that like? Okay, let me rephrase. Like, okay, so take like string theory for an example, right? That's a theory that would describe what exists outside of our universe, correct?
That gets iffy. It's not quite clear because in some sense it just makes our universe bigger.
I think we actually agree, to be honest. I think we're actually, I don't know if this is much of an argument, because I think we both would agree that there is a relatively lower degree of uncertainty for deductions and conclusions for what exists outside of our universe, but at the same time that you still can make deductions, there's just a lower degree of certainty.
I wouldn't say that there's a lower degree of certainty, though.
Oh, man. I mean, you really don't think that theories around what exists outside of our universe are relatively less supported than measurements of
I'm
what
not talking
exists.
about theories are not deductions.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I think I understand the importance of using defined terms, but I think that's a little bit semantics. I mean, I think you understand the core.
So string theory is not deductively true, right?
Yes.
String theory is like a physical model that, like, it doesn't even have sound mathematical, well, it has some sound mathematical grounding, but like not a lot of sound mathematical grounding, right? Then there's statements like, you know, essentially anything you find in a math textbook. Those are deductively true statements.
Okay, let me try one rephrasing, and then I'll bow out if we can't
Okay.
make progress. So,
Sure.
You know, what like if I was just to ask you, does the sun exist, for example, I would imagine that you would say 100% yes. There's essentially zero chance that the sun doesn't exist. You have 100% certainty of that, right?
I wouldn't claim 100% certainty, but I'm a fallibilist about
but like
certainty.
very,
I would say
very
really, really close to 100%, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if I asked you, okay, what is the likelihood or possibility that there is some type of deity or some type of force that we might describe as godlike that exists
You would have to give me
outside of our universe?
You would have to give me the constraints on what that word means, right? Like when you say the sun, I know what you're referring to. You're referring to like the thing in the sky, right? That glows. But when you say God, like, does my water bottle count as God? Probably not. Does like the immaterial laws of physics count as God?
No, I mean like
that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying if you give me a certain specific definition of a God, then we can talk about it and we can potentially deduce, like logically deduce whether it can or can't exist. But if you're sufficiently vague that you just say, well, outside of our universe, could a God exist? I don't even think that that's a well-founded question unless you're specific.
Yeah, I think there's just a high degree of uncertainty, and I just don't know.
It's not uncertainty, it's underdetermined, meaning you haven't even explained what it is that you don't know about. Like you haven't given a definition for the thing that you're trying to say does or doesn't exist.
Yeah, because I have no idea. I'm just saying it seems somewhat possible that there is a force, concept, nature, whatever, fuck, I don't know, that exists outside of our universe. And I think it seems possible in a way that
epistemically possible, maybe. Logically possible, maybe not.
I agree, but there's just a high degree of uncertainty. And so I think that's where if the definition of atheism is absolute certainty that nothing that
It's not absolute certainty.
Okay, well then, so you just think it's the most likely?
I think that given the notions of God that I've encountered, they are either highly unlikely or deductively non-existent.
Yeah, and if you're if you're interacting with the notions of God that are dictated by like organized religion or the Bible, of course that's going to be the outcome. But I mean, look, there's a lot of people that have been really smart individuals that have. If you just look at the commonality of like most really smart people that are religious, it's generally a vague definition of what would be defined as God. Because the more specific you get, the more obvious they're like,
Yeah, and that's a problem, right? That indicates that there's a problem with the view. If being more specific about your view makes your view less likely to be true, then that indicates that your view is probably not well founded in the first place. One moment.
I mean,
keep talking.
I think there's some reasonable logic behind that, but I mean, have you ever read much about like Thomas Jefferson's thinking on religion, for example?
Thomas Jefferson was a deist, was he not?
Yeah. He's a deist.
I haven't read his works in particular, but I know that deism is on the scale of things more likely than theism.
Yeah,
but deism is a very specific claim, and I think that deism still has a lot of the same problems. And I think that at least given certain understandings of deism, perhaps not all, but certain understandings of deism, I think you can deductively show that those things can't exist.
I agree, and I imagine if Thomas Jefferson lived in today's day and age, his religious beliefs would not be the same given the evidence.
I suspect he would be an atheist if he lived today. Same with Albert Einstein.
Probably, maybe. I'm not sure. But it really, the point that you just made, that I think is key, is that you would not say that atheism is a certainty in a lack of God.
I don't claim certainty in anything.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think look, in all these kinds of debates, you often just get into an argument around the definition of a word. I think that some people that would hold themselves out as atheists would say it is a certainty. I think you're probably right.
I actually don't think, I think that the vast majority wouldn't.
Well, look, I mean, it can't surprise you that there are lots of people that are not that smart that may define themselves as atheists and not be that particular about how they define it to other people.
Okay, but if we're just using, if your argument is that dumb people say stupid things, okay. Like, that's normal. That's a normal expectation from dumb people.
At this point, I actually don't even think we have that much of a different opinion. It sounds like we're actually relatively similar and maybe have some disagreements around the specific semantics of certain words and maybe the relative likelihoods. But we both it sounds like we would both agree with the statement that there isn't a certainty on that topic and that maybe we just disagree on the relative likelihoods. But
I think we also probably disagree on the reasons for the views that we hold. But look, it does say, can you convince me to believe in your God? So I'm going to let you go, Maxwell. But is that fair?
Well, I'm not even religious, so I just thought it'd be an interesting topic to talk about.
All right.
Also, can I just one last thing?
All right.
Request of you?
Maybe. Depends on what the request is.
I've got to say, I think that bringing on people that don't understand physics aren't going to be able to engage with you on physics topics, and they just sound stupid, and it doesn't really add much.
Yeah,
right?
they do.
Like that.
They shouldn't do it.
I agree, but if you're going to I don't know. You know what I mean, right?
He wanted to come up. I didn't know that he was going to bring up physics.
Yeah, but when someone clearly doesn't understand what the fuck they're talking about.
What am I supposed to do? Kick them?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. If somebody wants to come up and embarrass themselves, I'm going to let them. Unless there's like mental health issues, then I'll support them. Yeah, if you kick someone, then it looks like that they won. David, how's it going?
Stop it.
David, can you hear me? David? David?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Do you believe in God?
I sure do.
All right, and which one?
I'm a Christian, so I believe in the Christian God.
Okay, now look, I'm an atheist. What's the most compelling argument you could give me that would convince me that the Christian God is real?
So I've been shouting in the chat because I've been specifically wanting to address a previous caller who was making
Okay.
a terrible argument for the Mark and John contradiction.
Hmm.
I was hoping to address that with the time if I can.
Sure, go ahead.
So I've heard this contradiction before. I've actually heard a lot of arguments about the different quote unquote contradictions in the different gospels.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to understand what style the gospels were written in, and in that time period being concise, basically life biographies. And so that being said, not all differences can be chalked up to being contradictions necessarily. They can be chalked up to perspective. So that is one thing.
Well,
But-
look, you can have two different perspectives, and if their perspectives contradict each other, that's just a contradiction. Now, it could be that one of them was wrong.
Yeah.
But
No,
that's still
I
a
totally.
contradiction.
Right. Then if one of them is wrong, then you would have to. You couldn't make the claim that the Bible is the infallible Word of God. So
Right.
that would undermine that claim entirely. So I would preface this by saying from what I have researched and what I understand about that particular crucifixion discrepancy,
Hmm.
the 3rd hour versus 6th hour, is that in at least the 2 other places in the book of John where John references a specific time, he is very specifically using the Roman time, whereas in Mark,
So when he
he's
says
very
it's the
specifically
6th
using Hebrew
hour,
time.
so when he says
Yes,
it's the
that
6th hour,
actually
what
takes
time is he
place
referring to?
before. That would mean it actually takes place before the trial. The trial specifically takes place before the 9 a.m. crucifixion. I believe if I remember correctly, the Roman
they
time.
both used the same language. They both said one said the 3rd hour and the other says the 6th hour.
Yeah.
So
Yes, they're using the same. Sure, they're using the same language to write, but that doesn't mean they're using the same reference point as far as what time system that they are working with. So.
Is there somewhere I can read about how the Romans actually thought that the 6th hour was like before 9 a.m.?
Well, if Roman
Roman
time is 12 to 12, and Hebrew time morning to night is a 6 to 6.
Okay,
situation.
is there somewhere I can see that this is what John was using and this is what that's what Mark was using and that they are different? Like, because this seems like, oh, where'd he go? Oh, you're still here. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, like,
I'll
because
have
like
to
because it doesn't say that in the book, right?
Well, no, but I don't. There's a lot of things that aren't said, but that doesn't mean it's not necessarily the case. But I would have to look
Right, but
deeper into the term.
If they say they're at different times, in the same sense, like it's like one says one is the 3rd hour and one says one is the 6th hour, then I mean that is a contradiction. Now there might be a way to resolve the contradiction by adding in additional information, but that is still a contradiction. Like in the meaning of the words.
It's not a contradiction if they're just simply working with different time structures. They're referring to the same local time.
If you add extra information, then you might be able to resolve the contradiction. But that's adding extra stuff into it. Now, do we have any reason to think that we need to add extra stuff into it? Where's the evidence that John was using this different time zone?
If
different time sense.
Right. I would have to look at why those other verses are it's considered that John was using Roman time. I don't have that reference right in front of me. I'll admit that.
Okay.
I'm just bringing that up as a point worth researching more into. Because I think particularly that guest was extremely rude to you. I want to apologize on his behalf. But yeah, I appreciate what you're doing. As far as why I believe in the God that I believe in,
Mm-hmm.
there's a few things that convince me personally. One is an experiential reason, so I can't really posit that as an argument for you or anyone watching. That's
Sure.
not really something that I can, fairly use as evidence as to why I believe in God. That's more of a
That's a you thing, and I can understand that personal experiences can be very compelling. They're just not compelling to anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wouldn't use that as evidence. There are two arguments that I have heard that have kind of solidified why I believe in God and why I believe that, well, specifically, I'll just say that I'm a theist, right?
Okay, sure. Well, you're a Christian, but sure.
Yeah, yes. One is I don't know if you've ever heard any arguments from beauty. I don't know if you've heard there are aesthetic arguments for God. And the causal arguments are a big reason why I believe they're, at least if I wasn't going to be a Christian, I would be a theist, simply for the fact that the observable universe, everything we can observe has a cause as far as we understand it. And I think the questions regarding the origin of the universe and where matter came from also requires a cause.
Why?
And I think that essentially, if everything we can observe that is matter, we can reduce to, at some point, having a cause, right? My father begot me, my father's father begot him.
Sure.
A tree begot a seed, which begot a tree, and so on and so forth, right? When I look at anything that is, and I'm afraid to use this term, complex, but when I say complex, I just mean anything that has clearly had something form it or shape it or structure it, is what I would kind of mean loosely by the term
I'm not
complex.
going to press you on it. I pressed him on it because he was trying to use words in a technical way. You're fine. I know what you mean.
Sure, yeah. Just generally speaking, something that has some kind of organized structure to it that we can observe, which we can observe down on a like a cellular level.
But look, it sounds like you're doing like a part-whole fallacy or a composition fallacy. You're saying that everything in the universe has a cause, therefore the universe as a whole has a cause. But that's like that's not even like that's fallacious reasoning, right? It doesn't imply one doesn't imply the other.
Right. That's fair. So how I'm to steelman my own argument, I need to like consider how I'm sort of positing the statement or the question.
I mean, it sounds like you want to run like the Kalam cosmological argument, right?
Yes.
The trouble with the Kalam cosmological argument, besides the fact that there's not really great justification for thinking that either of the premises are true, even if you accept the first two premises, you can run an identical parody argument, which shows that the universe doesn't have a godly cause. The first premise of the cosmological argument is everything that begins to exist has a cause. The second one is that everything the universe began to exist, right? So even if we just accept that both of those premises are true, well, we can run an exactly equivalent argument for which these premises have the exact same level of support and say everything that began to exist has a physical cause. Now, if we say that instead of the first premise, the support is the exact same, because the way that we support the first premise is we just look at the world around us and we see that things have causes. But when we do that, the things that we see that have causes have physical causes, right? Right. And so if we say that everything that began to exist has a physical cause, and the universe began to exist, it follows then that if God is non-physical, then God did not cause the universe.
Sure. Okay.
And the fact that you can parody it that easily is a really big problem for the argument.
Okay, let me respond to you with, and this may or may not be an appropriate response, but if something shows signs of, I guess, and this kind of ties into the experiential thing, but when I look at it's the Watchmaker argument is how I would respond to that, right? So if something has complexity and order, everything that we can observe that has complexity and order, at least from a, let's say, a saw or a washing machine, right, has clearly an intentionality behind it, and its structure and its order lends itself towards its purpose.
But that's not, I mean, that's not evidently true, right? I mean, there are things in nature that we know don't involve human creation that are orderly and are structured.
But they are ordered, right? But and that's to my point, is that when we observe order and structure from what we create with our hands, it is our minds, which, and our intellect and our minds, that allow us to have the ingenuity to do those, to accomplish those things. It is, so I would say that the idea of having complexity and organization without some kind of mind, and by that I mean a non-physical consciousness to organize it, then you run into, like, if design requires intelligence, which I would posit that it does. I know that may be a big claim, but intelligence would require a mind. So I think that
the trouble is
that,
there's trouble with this argument, right? So the point is we're trying to use this argument to prove that God exists. So what that means is that you have to set aside, you can't use God's existence to explain any of the data in the argument, because you're trying to justify the claim, if something is orderly, then it was designed and has a designer. You're trying to justify that. So you can't assume that everything has a designer, right? You can't just start there. So what we would do is we start out agnostic, right? We start out agnostic.
Sure, yeah.
We don't believe in God. We don't not believe in God. We're just unsure. And we go and we look around the world that we live in. There's a water bottle here. It's kind of orderly. There's a phone here. It's super orderly. I'm sitting in front of a computer,
right.
Very orderly. And those things, I would go and I would investigate them. I would like Google my phone or something and look up like where it came from, and I would find, oh, it was made in a factory by people. Okay, great. So this phone is this phone is orderly and it was designed. So that's one point. That's one check in the orderly implies designed argument. But then if I go out into the world around us, and I look at, and I wander into a cave and I see a crystal, I'm like, that crystal looks really orderly. So I get on my phone and I start Googling, where did the crystal come from? And it says, oh, the crystal forms naturally over millions of years, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, I guess that one doesn't require a design. So that's one check in the order doesn't require design. And so now I'm in this weird place. Now I'm in this weird place where it looks like sometimes order requires design and sometimes it doesn't. So it seems like it's a wash.
So the crystal analogy or example, I think that's a fair example. I would respond to that and say that the forces of nature at work on that crystal over that period of time to create that orderliness, it's when we observe the way diamonds form, for example, right? They don't come out shaped like the cut princess diamonds that you see on a woman's ring.
So that's why, like, we can use quartz as an example. Quartz actually does form nice geometric shapes on its own naturally.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are explanations for that that don't necessarily require the direct involvement of an intelligence to shape the quartz itself.
Right.
But what I'm positing is that what is required is something beyond the process that begins the construction of a piece of quartz that causes that to happen, if that makes sense.
Right, but what you're doing is you're now impugning a designer to try to explain away why this apparently undesigned thing actually is designed, and therefore reinforces your idea that designed things have designers. But see, you're just grabbing the God idea and you're putting it in front. You're putting the cart in front of the horse.
Let's not say that I'm positing the Christian God.
You're positing a designer, is my point.
Some kind of designer.
Right. But that's the thing you're trying to prove. That's the thing you're trying to prove. So you can't use that to understand your evidence.
A thing that if something that we are looking at is evidently designed, how then is it a logical problem to posit that there's more likely than not, a designer of the thing that looks
But
designed?
the point is that, okay, so
I'm not
what,
saying it's 100%
what
true.
criteria
What I
are
am
you
saying is that
using? What criteria are you using to determine if something is evidently designed?
Nope, that's a good question. I'm not prepared to respond to that, to be honest. But I'm kind of being naughty. I'm at work right now, but I'm outside talking to you, so I'm a little unprepared.
Hey, look, man, shit on the boss's clock, right?
Right, yeah. So, some things are. I've been like loving listening to your different conversations, and I've been hoping to just chime in, especially about the other thing. But
I definitely got
think
that phrase wrong, by the way. Is it? Yeah, what is it? It's boss makes $1, I make a dime. That's why I poop on company time. There you go.
yes. Yeah, pretty much. This is a little more interesting than pooping on company time, but
Sure.
yeah, I think that it's not an open and shut argument. I don't think any one argument for God is an open and shut argument. I think that the power of arguments for the existence of God is the sheer number of them that we have and we can put together to make a more holistic argument. And there's like 150 at this point. So,
so what if I pulled up? Sorry, I'm laughing at the comments, not at what you said. There's a website that I've seen, and I could go find it. 200 proofs that God isn't real. It's
I actually, speaking of proofs, I do have a question for you before I do need.
It's 200 arguments or something like this. Yeah, go ahead.
What are your thoughts on burden of proof? Because so I've been struggling with this because so many atheists, and I'm not going to lump you into that category, but so many atheists, and I think Hitchens did this a lot. A lot of like the bigger, sort of more well-known atheists would do this all the time. And they, from my understanding in law, the burden of proof lies equally on both sides. And I think the same should go for both the atheist and the theist. However, it seems as though a lot of atheists refuse to share the burden of proof, and they just put it on, you have to prove that God exists. Otherwise, if you can't do that, then I'm just kind of right by default. What are your thoughts on that as far as how you handle it? Like
Well, look,
are you willing to share the negative burden of proof, right? To prove God doesn't exist as much as I have to bear the burden of proof of proving he does.
Yeah, so look, so roughly I think it just depends on what the argument is. If the argument, so I frame it, in some sense I I do these debates for fun, right? I don't make a lot of money, but I do these debates for fun. And the style of debates that I like to do is I like to be on the defensive, right? Like that's like where I like to be, just because I find it more interesting. I like to think about what other people are talking about and think about that rather than just try to like force my arguments down other people's throats. Fine. So like in the context of this conversation, the prompt is, can you convince me to believe in your God? So just by putting that out there, I'm putting the burden on the people calling in, because that's the conversation I want to have. It's more interesting to me that way.
And that's totally fair. That's more of a personal thing. That's totally fair.
There are other people who will go onto a live. I'm friends with many of them. Well, they will say God is not real, and then there is a reasonable expectation that they're at least going to provide some sort of argument that is positive in that case. They're going to provide some sort of justification for why not only are they an atheist because they're not convinced, but why they actually think God is not real, why they have a positive argument for that. I think that's fine either way. But if we're talking about like genuinely, like, is there like a way to determine where the burden of proof actually is? Historically, the burden of proof usually just lies in the person who's making the unusual claim.
The initial claim.
Not the initial claim, the unusual claim. So like
the unusual claim. Right.
Yeah. So for example, if somebody comes up to me and says the earth is flat, and then I say, what are you talking about? No, it's not. If they say, oh, well, you're making a claim that it's not flat, therefore, no, we all agree the standard mainstream belief is that the earth is a globe. If you want to try to change that paradigm, you're going to have to provide evidence for that. Now, there's a question as to whether and the reason I just use that as like the way to kind of talk about burdens is because this whole business of what's a positive claim, what's a negative claim, you can turn a negative claim into a positive claim. You can turn a positive claim into a negative claim.
Sure.
Like I could say that, you could say that you could come on and make the negative claim that atheism is false. And then you say, well, and then I would say, okay, well, what's your proof? Well, look, I just don't believe atheism. I just don't think atheism is true. You have to convince me that, like, so it like the whole positive versus negative claim thing, I think is kind of silly.
Saying, yeah. Right, it's a shifting thing. I saw somebody in the chat say that people try and shift the burden all the time to get the upper hand in debates, and I think that's totally. I mean,
look, so I think generally what's the case is that like atheists in the society that we live in generally are going to have the burden of proof. That's just because most people believe in God. That's just the world we live in. That said, if you're coming on to do a debate thing, you should expect, unless the framing of the debate is very explicit like I have here, you should expect that both parties should present some evidence.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, I appreciate your time. I'm going to get back to work.
All right, have fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this some more thought. Maybe I'll hop on another time and have a little bit more to say about the cosmological argument. So.
Sounds good. And make sure to shit on company time. Take care.
Yeah, definitely. All right, see you.
And the reason why you should do that, by the way, is because payroll theft is one of the biggest forms of theft in the country. So, you know, if they're going to steal from you, right. Anyway, we have no super chats to read, so let's move on to the next guest. All right, let's talk to MR because MR's been waiting for a long time. Yeah, it's like a rebate from your colon. Exactly. If they're going to steal from you, you may as well steal back what's rightfully yours. The rapture is coming tomorrow? It is. Well, look, if the rapture is coming tomorrow, I can look after your animals. Just give me a $500, just you know, for the remainder of the animal's life, just like set it up so that I get paid like, you know, $50 a day to watch your animals. Also, if you're not going to need them, like, I'll take your house and your car. Opinion on Q-Top? He's kind of a lol cow. PJ, how's it going? PJ? 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 All right, no PJ. Siege Slapper, how's it going? Siege Slapper, how's it going?
Charger, how does it sound now?
I can hear you great. Do you believe in God?
Oh, I said my fault. I was saying I was playing Skate. I'm playing Skate 4. I'm off today. I'm not doing much. How's your day going?
I'm doing all right. Do you believe in God?
Nice, man. Yes, sir.
Okay, and which one?
The Christian God. I'm more Orthodox, but the Christian God, yeah.
Okay. Now, look, I'm an atheist. So what would you say is like the most compelling argument you could give me that would, you know, make me think that's true?
Testimony and Yeah.
Yeah, personal testimony doesn't really do much for me.
No, yeah, I already knew that. Yeah. I know that because it's more of a personal thing. You're way smarter than me, bro. I've seen some of your stuff. You're a smart guy, bro.
I appreciate that.
I randomly clicked on too because I was on someone else's live earlier. I just kind of wanted to cherry pick your brain a little bit. Like, what was your like? Obviously, sure. I follow, you know, Orthodoxy, obviously. So you know, I follow.
Are you Greek Jesus, Orthodox or Eastern Orthodox or?
Eastern.
Okay.
Yeah. But to be honest with you, I kind of just lied because, like, I don't even know the differences, to be honest with you.
Siege. Don't lie. You know lying's a sin.
I know, man. I lied.
Make sure
I'm playing Skate 4, so I'm trying to not. What happened?
You're good. Siege, I'm going to let you keep playing Skate 4. Have a good time. Make sure to repent for your lie. We don't want anybody going to hell over that, do we? Joel, how's it going?
Hello? Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing all right. Do you
Uh,
believe in God?
I don't, but I do have an argument for you.
Yeah, but it's, the prompt is, convince me to believe? Can you convince me to believe in your God? But if
I
you don't
do
believe in
understand
God,
that, but I know, it's bad. I mean, I envy like people who do believe in God, and that's why I do have an argument for you.
but it doesn't convince you, so why should it convince me?
Because like put it on the way of like I'm on the edge of it. Like I don't
All
really
right.
know what to
Yeah,
choose.
sure. Okay, fine.
So like people use the argument of like, you know, they can prove the cross references and like they can prove that Noah's Ark existed and things like Jesus's clothes existed. And like I want to hear your argument against things like that.
Yeah, I don't think that they can. And I think that a lot of the people who make that claim are typically illiterate when it comes to science. And they're typically basing their claims off of like single points of reference. Like people will say, oh, they found Jesus's blood. Like, okay, one guy made that claim and he wasn't able to support it. He said that he sent it to a lab to get tested, but he never told us what lab he sent it to. And nobody's ever come forward and said, oh yeah, we were the ones who tested it. So like we just shouldn't believe him, right? Similarly, people will be like, oh, we found Noah's Ark. Well, look, people have been making the claim that they found Noah's Ark in different places for the last 1,000 years. And every time they bring geologists in, they're always like, no, this is just a rock. With regards to the Shroud of Turin, you can just carbon date it. And then you can look at the historical record, and the carbon dating agrees with the historical record that it was forged in like the 1300s. So like all of these claims are always like, they're all very, very shallow claims, almost always.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not the most informed person with this subject, but I know you do argue that like we can find things out. Like earlier in an argument, you said we could find things out without having to experience them, and I also
Yeah,
believe that.
I think that
But
like we can do math, for example, and you can't really experience math.
right, right. But yeah, I mean, I was just mostly curious about like what your argument was about that because like I've always been curious about that. Never really known myself. I'm not the smartest person. Never really known myself how to argue against that or how to like even go
Sure,
about that kind of thing.
sure.
So
All
that
right.
that was
Well,
really it. I appreciate your time.
of course, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, take it easy.
All right, let's bring on another guest. I don't know if my voice is ever going to come back to normal. Maybe this is just my new normal, y'all. There is somebody who's like para warrior who's been like it's funny. I'll invite him up. So para warrior has been in the chat saying, "Yeah, you're nobody. I'm not going to waste my time on you. You'll never be convinced anyway." And he's just been like saying that in the chat for like half an hour now. So it's like I can't tell. Does he want to come on, or is he just mad about me doing this, and so he just has to express himself? By the way, if you guys, oh, well, I'll mention it afterwards. Jack, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, thanks for asking. Do you believe in God?
I do, yes.
Okay, and which one, just so I can, get some clarity on where you stand.
Yeah, the sort of Judeo-Christian God.
Are you Jewish, or are you Christian, or
Christian,
kind of
yes,
neither?
but I see it sort of, no, I do, but yes.
Okay. Yeah, so look, I'm an atheist. What would you say is like the most compelling argument that you could give me that the Judeo-Christian God, as you understand it, exists?
Yeah, I think part of my discussion is for God is.
So Jack, you're cutting in and out a bit. Are you
Got to
like
buy
on
the
Wi-Fi
basic.
or something?
I'm not. I'm on a 5G. If it's supposed to be good service, but if it's cutting in and out, I'll hop on later.
Yeah, it could also. Are you
If
using
it's
like
hopping in and
Bluetooth
out, just go ahead and
headphones?
kick me.
Are you using Bluetooth headphones?
I am, yeah. I am, yes. Does that cause problems?
It sometimes does. Maybe try just talking directly into the phone if you can, unless you're at a place where you can't have where you have to have headphones in.
Yeah.
All right, let's try
I
that
don't know
now.
if this is that any better?
Maybe.
Yeah.
You were just kind of
So-
like going in and out, but I guess we can see. So
Yeah.
sorry, can you repeat back what you were saying?
Yeah, so sorry. Yeah, okay. Feel free to kick me if it doesn't work. Yeah, I was just saying, I don't think there's any sort of coercive evidence I can give that would convince. I think of belief in God as something that's justifiably basic, and it's one of the kind of the basic beliefs you about reality. And there's a coercive way to shift someone one way or the other on the belief. But I'd love to explore why, for me, that basic belief seems compelling.
Unfortunately, it's still happening. So maybe come back another time and we can talk about it.
Feel free to kick me. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I feel bad.
Wi-Fi. Thanks for talking.
Of course. I actually wanted to have a conversation with him.
Don't feel bad.
He seems like an interesting guy, but I just don't think it was in the cards today. By the way, so there's a bunch of people here, so I should chill for myself. So first, make sure to like the live, follow, ring the bell, subscribe, all the good buttons that you're supposed to click, right? You should do all of those things. Second, if you want to join a Discord server where you can see announcements when I send my stuff out, I post videos every day when I go live. There is a Discord server. I have a Discord server. You can, if you're watching on YouTube, it's in the description somewhere down here. And if you're watching on on TikTok, go to the link tree in my bio and you'll see a link to a Discord. You'll have to copy and paste it in, but yeah, you'll see a link to the Discord. And that's a cool place to be. Generally pretty chill people. No shame in joining, right? Second thing, if you want to support me, there are a few ways to do this. I mean, live streams aren't my primary source of income. Most of my income comes from making videos. That's the job of a science communicator. But if you want to support me, you can. There are a few ways to do it. There's Cash App. There's Super Chats on YouTube, which gets the little pop-up thing. There's of course things on TikTok as well. Various ways to do this if you want to, but only if you have money to spare. Also, I'm mentioning a new thing. If you have like fuck you amounts of money, there's a new Patreon tier that I added recently as well, only for people who are independently wealthy and for some reason want to feel like an ancient medieval patron by supporting a scientist, because I am still a scientist. I do still actively do scientific research. Here's a notebook. It's my most recent notebook that I'm using. It's my research notebook. And in some sense, I do it for the love of the game. However, it would be good for that science to be funded as well. So consider that. Anyway, let's move on to another guest. Let's bring on Value. Value, how's it going? I'm doing okay.
I'm doing all right. We've talked before. I hope you're doing well.
I don't remember us, so great.
Okay.
So do you believe in God?
I do, and
Okay.
I am a Catholic.
You're a Catholic, and what was the argument that you gave me? Do you remember?
No, before I just asked you how you, on what basis you get your morality.
Okay, sure.
And that was more just me trying to understand. And you basically gave the idea that you use your own reason and the culture you live in to determine what norms to follow. But that's not my line of reasoning today.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I have a take on the fine-tuning argument.
Sure.
So are you familiar with it?
I am. But if you have a new take on it, I'd love to hear it.
Sure. So for those listening, the fine-tuning argument is that, and I hope you can agree with my representation of it, that the properties of the universe are such, electrons weigh a certain amount, gravity has a certain metric to it, everything works in such a way that life is possible. And if they were very finely tuned differently, life would not be possible. And that's the argument from the theist. Would you agree with that basic premise?
Yeah,
of the argument?
that's roughly the argument, yeah. Okay.
And then the usual take from the opposing side is, well, of course, because in any universe where complex life could exist, that would have to be, the universe would have to be fine-tuned in such a way for complexity to exist. So only beings that exist can live in such a universe.
So that only works if there's a multiverse. So people who use that argument are implicitly implying that a multiverse exists, of course.
Right.
But sure.
Would that be your argument to the fine tuning?
No.
Okay. So what would your argument be?
Well, I thought you had a new take on it.
Well, I do, but my take I'm trying to answer the take that a lot of other people have. So I'm sorry for
Okay.
assuming that you would do that.
Yeah. So my take is it's kind of so there's kind of three possible explanations, right?
Okay.
One explanation is that a god did it. The second explanation is that in some sense it's random, but it's random from enough things in from enough samples. Like you shake up a whole bunch of dice, and you're just pulling out all of them, and so the odds are that you're going to get it eventually. That's the multiverse idea. And then the third explanation is that it had to be this way. There is no other logically consistent way for it to be. And so what I would like to do is I'd like to examine what the probability is between the necessity condition, that there's no other way it could be, and the God did it explanation. So given that we have, so under the God did it explanation, there is still a small range of possible ways that the universe could have been, that these constants could have been, such that the universe would still be life permitting. In fact, I could pull up the numbers on it, but they're actually not so small. They're smaller than like the entire range, but the range of possibilities is not so small. So somehow, the probability that God picked this particular arrangement of constants, given the small range, is still essentially 1 in infinity. Because, you know, if you pick, if your goal is to pick a number between 0.01 and 0.02, there's an infinite number of numbers between that, and he picked one of them.
Right.
On the other hand, under the necessity hypothesis, the exact values that they are the only way they could have been. And so comparing the two hypotheses, we have that the God-producing hypothesis is far less likely to produce the constants that we have than the necessity hypothesis. And therefore, given that one is significantly less likely, it seems like we should accept the necessity hypothesis, which is far more likely than the far more likely to predict these values of the constants than the God hypothesis is.
So just so I'm clear, you're saying like that if a universe was to exist, it would have these properties, regardless.
Yep,
there's
have
a
to.
universe where it doesn't have these properties.
Right.
Okay. Well, fair enough. My argument was going to go based off if you were going to say the multiverse thing. So
well, what's the argument against the multiverse?
Well, it's not the argument against the multiverse. It would be accepting. Okay, let's say that there is a multiverse, and there's an infinite number of variables that these laws of physics could be. There could be a universe in which contingent things are contingent on a non-contingent thing, like God.
Sorry, what does this have to do with fine-tuning?
Because I was expecting your counter argument to be a multiversal.
I mean, so the point of the multiverse hypothesis is that no God exists, but you have an infinite number of multiverses, or at least an extraordinarily large number of universes, each of which is instantiating the cosmological constants in a slightly different way. And then you just say, oh, well, anthropic reasoning then gets you the rest. What does the contingency stuff have to do with that resolution to the fine-tuning argument?
What I'm saying is if there were an infinite or a very high amount of universes, one of them could have a God.
How do you figure?
Well, why couldn't it? If the laws of the universe
that's an argument that you'd have to make, right? That having a God is something that's possible. Or something that, because like the universes are like physical things. It's not like each universe is metaphysically different. It's that each universe is physically different. And so whether or not a God exists is a statement about that's like a metaphysical claim, not a claim about the physics.
I suppose you're right. Yeah, no, you got me. So that's all. That was what I was gonna try to argue, but I guess you got me.
Okay, well, fair enough. Thanks for being here, Value.
Have a good one.
Take care. Yeah, so by the way, the multiverse would have the same questions about where it came from or why it exists, but it wouldn't have the problem with the cosmological constants, right? All right, let's talk to Puro. Puro, how's it going?
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, but it sounds like that there's some echo. Oh, can you get rid of the echo?
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Let's see. I think that there's still an echo. It's small though. We can deal with it. Yeah. So, do you believe in God?
Of course I do.
And which one?
And I say again.
Which one?
The Christian God. Well, and that's one thing. I mean, all gods, you know, through history have different names and whatnot, but you know, there is a higher energy. Is what I'm trying to get.
Okay. Why should I believe that that's true?
Well, it's simple. I mean, you're very smart. I
I
mean, but
appreciate that.
they're all theories, though.
What's all
Nothing's been.
theories?
Yes.
What
Everything
is all theories?
multiverse. Can you prove a multiverse?
I don't believe in a multiverse.
Okay. Can you prove any of the? I saw you yesterday with that other guy that was talking, and it was three of you all.
Yep. Yeah, we do a
And
weekly show.
yeah, and I said, yeah, man, these guys, they're on it. I mean, they know what's going on with all the physics parts, you know, about it. But just simple. I mean, we don't come from apes. Do you agree with that?
Does that have anything to do with physics?
Well, what I'm trying to get to is the point of you saying you're an atheist.
I am an
And
atheist,
that
yeah.
means you don't believe there's a God, right?
Right.
Okay, well, I'm getting to that point.
Okay. And so you think we
Okay.
don't... What would you do if I told you that we are apes? Like we're a kind of ape?
In what way? Explain
That's
to me.
like taxonomically.
No, but our bodies are nothing alike. I mean, an ape.
Are you insane? Our bodies are so similar.
No.
They have the same number of fingers, the same number of arms. They have forward-facing eyes. They have similar jaw structures. They have similar bone structures.
Okay, then how come
Like
all
they're
the
so
research?
similar.
Then how come research is done more on pigs than it does? Why do we get our insulin from pigs instead of, apes?
Because we farm pigs. We don't farm apes.
See, because we can't. Our body will not allow us, to
And
receive.
by the way, we don't get our insulin from pigs anymore. We just synthesize it now.
Okay, well, anyway, but it's still what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, there were
But-
more pigs back. There are more pigs than there are apes.
No, our body is perfect anatomically. I mean, perfect.
Is it?
Perfect.
Are you looking at the screen right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is my left hand, right? This is my right hand. Okay. Now,
Yes, sir.
what I'm about to tell you, I'm not going to try to move my left hand at all. Okay. I'm not doing anything intentionally on my left hand. I'm going to do stuff on my right hand. Do you see what's happening with my left hand?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Why is my left hand moving when I'm only trying to move my right hand?
I'm not aware. I'm not sure.
It's because our bodies aren't perfect and because my wires are crossed somewhere.
Yeah, and you know what? The central nervous system. It's funny you bring that up because that is actually when people have Parkinson's, they have a short in their system. That's really what it is.
Sounds
But
like
what
that they're not. Sounds like the body's not perfect then.
Well, it is. I mean, sometimes things happen. I mean, for
So
obvious.
wait, if sometimes things happen, then doesn't that mean that we're not perfect?
Well,
Perfect. Things wouldn't happen to perfect things.
Well, close to perfect. Yeah, you're right. Close to perfect. There's only been one perfect man. But
sure.
getting back to what I was saying.
It was Brian,
is
right?
that Renee, Rene.
Oh, I thought it was Brian.
No. So then what I'm trying to get to is your heartbeat.
What
What makes
about
your
it?
heart beat? What makes your heart beat?
Electrical signals that are sent by the nerves, I guess.
No, sir. It's called the SA node. Now the SA node appears and disappears, and it forms like a little hand. And it
To be clear, I'm
squeezes
pretty
your-
sure it's definitely true that the heart beats as a result of electrical signals.
Yes, sir. But it appears and disappears. It's not your breathing. Your breathing is controlled. Yeah, look it up. Your
Yeah, I am.
breathing is controlled. Go ahead. Your breathing is controlled by your brain, of course, by your central nervous system, but not your heart.
I never said the heart was controlled by the central nervous system.
But that's what I'm getting to. It's just an
Yeah, so
electrical
these cells
impulse.
produce an electrical impulse known as the cardiac action potential that travels through the electrical conduction system of the heart, causing it to contract. Yeah, so I was
Like
right.
an
Why'd you say I was wrong?
like an artificial pacemaker.
Except it's a natural
what is-
pacemaker.
Yeah. Well, I mean natural, pardon. But what I'm trying to get to is where does that come from?
If it evolved.
See what I'm saying? It appears and disappears.
What do you mean it appears in what are you talking about?
That little node, that electrical impulse that forms like a hand, it squeezes your heart and lets it go. Where does it come from?
It evolved.
No, how can it evolve? It appears.
What do you mean?
And
How can it evolve?
It appears and disappears.
What appears and disappears? The node is a region.
Node.
The node is a region. The region doesn't disappear.
Just like, how does a pacemaker work?
It sends an electrical signal from a timing clock.
This little node, look it up. Make
I
a
already
little
looked
research.
it up.
Now that's where I'm going to get to.
I'm sure.
The Lord giveth, the Lord giveth, the Lord taketh. That's where that node comes from.
Okay, why should I believe that?
Because look, you have theory that you can't prove, but this is not theory. These are a fact.
Sorry, what's the fact? The fact is that the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away.
Electrical impulse appears and disappears. There's no known source. They don't know where it comes from.
I'm sorry, the known source is the sinoatrial node. That's the source. That's the source of the electrical impulse, right?
Why does it disappear?
You mean
Then
why does it
if it
stop sending the
disappears-
signal?
No, it just disappears. Like it
The
shows
electrical,
up.
the electrical impulse
sir.
disappears
Yes, sir.
because the signal is
Yes.
not being sent. What?
Read up on that. That's all you need. brother.
I'm reading up on it right now. What are you doing?
Okay.
What do you mean? What do you mean it disappears? That doesn't make any sense. The cells are still there. The cells don't disappear.
I'm not a doctor, but you can
I
ask
know you're
other
not.
doctors.
I can tell.
Okay. Well, look, I'm not here to try to talk to you in any condescending manner. All I'm trying to say is, ask any doctor where it comes from.
They'll tell me evolution. They'll tell me it evolves. This structure evolved. I can assure you that they'll say that. But okay, yeah, I will.
Ask any doctor.
Okay.
All right. You have yourself a good day.
All right, you too, bro. All right, I should drink some water. What a... All right, let's talk to Northwestern.
Hi,
Northwestern,
Blitz.
how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. What God do you believe in?
I'm Muslim.
Okay. And what would you say is the most compelling argument you could give me, an atheist, that would convince me that, or at least, compel me to believe that, say, Islam is true, or that God is real?
Yeah, so the argument that I would kind of present here would be the argument of a necessary reality. So I believe that there is an independent necessary reality because all realities can't be necessary.
Why not?
Because that will lead to a contradiction.
What's the contradiction?
The contradiction would be that if there are two necessary realities, an unnecessary reality need to encapsulate all realities.
Why?
But it's not encapsulating the other necessary reality.
Why does a necessary reality have to encapsulate all necessary realities?
Because it is a reality that is independent and necessary, and all other realities tend to draw their dependence from this reality.
No, I'm asking why is it that you can't have... Why is it that if you have one necessary thing, it must be the only necessary thing?
No, so I'm saying it's the necessary thing and also the independent thing. So you can't have two independent things, not two necessary things.
Why can't you have two independent things?
Because independent over here in this paradigm would mean that it is encapsulating all possible realities. It is independent. It is
so when you
devoid of
say independent, you just mean encapsulating everything.
Yeah, so it's encapsulating, or I would say that it has no dependencies, but it instantiates other realities.
So it sounds like you're just describing. It sounds like you could just be describing the universe. It encapsulates it encapsulates all things. It could be necessary.
Right. So you're sympathetic to the necessary reality framework?
Yeah, insofar as it seems that it could be that the universe is necessary. Sure.
Yeah, so basically in Islam, as much as we'd like to have an anthropomorphic definition of God, the real argument for God is mostly from the standpoint of that it is necessary, independent, has no beginning or end. There is a surah in the Quran, which is Surah Ikhlas, which kind of goes over this. So that's the point of view and the framework that I subscribe to. Outside
Does it
of
have
the
a
fact
mind?
that yes, so a
Okay,
mind
so
in
why
terms
should it
of
have a mind?
because intentionality is an attribute which has existence, which has potency to exist, right? So anything that has potency to
Intentionality
exist,
is an attribute which has potency to exist. You'll have to unpack that, bud.
yeah. So for instance, I can say that I have a mind, right? And my
Sure.
mind means that I have intentionality. I can take decisions. Now,
Sure.
since I have a mind and I can take decisions, that has some degree of contingent existence to attach to it. It's
Why?
it's instantiated in some way.
Just because it's instantiated, that doesn't mean that it's contingent.
No, but then the question that I would have would be that how is it instantiated? It has to be instantiated from an aspect of a reality that is all independent of this, right?
All independent of what? Of the mind?
Yeah, because my decision making and my intentionality is dependent, right? Because I'm a dependent being. I have essence. I have attributes.
By dependent, what do you mean? I feel like you're using. It seems like you're trying to use dependent and contingent and necessary and independent as synonyms, and they are not.
They're not. They're not. No, I'm not trying to use that. By dependent, I mean that it has an essence. So it could be
It has
limited
an
in certain-
essence.
Yeah, it has attributes that could describe it in some way.
So by dependent, you just mean it has properties. Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's causally linked to some other entity. That's the first part.
Well, that.
And the second part
Hold
would
on,
be
so-
that it's limited.
Wait, so I thought it was just that it needs properties.
Yeah, so there are two ways to describe dependency. One way is that it has properties, it has attributes, and it's limited by those attributes. And then the second way would be that it is, because it's dependent, it has like a causal structure attached to it.
I don't think that those are two equivalent. I don't think that those are equivalent definitions.
They're not equivalent definitions, but they are definitions to kind of describe dependent entities.
Well, which one are you using? Because I can think that given those definitions, I can consider things that are dependent in one sense and independent and not dependent in the other sense.
You can think of things that are independent and not and dependent at the same time.
Yeah. Given the two definitions that you've given, for example, I could imagine under your paradigm, God is dependent as it has the properties of being all powerful, of being timeless, for example. However, under your same paradigm, it doesn't have any causal structure, so it would be independent.
No, God is independent, but does
But it
not
has
have
properties.
No, it doesn't. It does not
Timeless
have
is a property. Being timeless is a property.
Yeah, that's a property. It does not have any distinct property. Its property is that it instantiates these.
When did your definition require distinct property? And I don't even know what you mean by distinct property. Obviously, God has distinct properties. Timeless is distinct from spaceless.
No, I don't. I'll explain.
These
that.
are different kinds of things. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So when I say God does not have distinct properties, I say that, for instance, God's mercy or God's wrath or God's power, there is no distinction within them. So the
That's
only essence that
incoherent.
God has.
If there's no distinction between them, then those words just mean the same
how is that
thing.
incoherent?
You're saying that would mean that wrath and mercy are synonyms.
No, so because for us to understand the attributes of God, we have to kind of understand it on our level. But if we were to say that God's mercy and powerful, there are distinctions within them, then we are saying that God's essence has distinctions, and God is not a simple reality. So in the initial definition
that's why the view is incoherent. That God is fundamentally partless is incoherent. If you're proposing that God has different properties that are obviously distinct.
That's subjective, but I don't
think it's subjective. It's just what we mean by words.
So when I say that God's attributes don't have distinctions, what I mean is God is an instantiating reality. So I
don't know what that means.
Your PhD in physics. That means, for instance, if you're familiar with object-oriented, because you're a mathematician, it means that there is something needed to instantiate an object, right? There is a class needed to instantiate an object. So that
in object-oriented languages, sure.
Yeah. So if I were to draw a parallel, can you say that any distinct essence could be instantiated without an instantiating reality?
Any distinct well, if you don't have an instantiator, then you can't instantiate anything, whether distinct essences or not.
Exactly. So if you were to kind of draw a parallel, we are objects who've got distinct properties. How would you instantiate these objects? How would you instantiate?
Well, I don't
me
think
and
that
you?
we're
If you
I don't think that we're instantiated objects in the same way that object-oriented languages have instantiated objects.
Sure. But the reason I was drawing a parallel was because we have attributes, right, that are distinct.
We have
and there is
we have
distinction within
attributes
our
for sure. I don't think that those attributes need to be instantiated though.
So what I'm
And I think that there's like a
how do
huge
they-
burden, a huge metaphysical burden that you have to prove to show that that's the case.
So you would say that so anything that has a distinct essence would not require an essence to instantiate it?
Anything that has a distinct essence. By essence, do you just mean like the essential properties or something?
Yeah. Would you say that that would require some kind of grounding reality to instantiate it, or could it?
I don't think that objects need instantiation. No.
So you think that? So how do they? Because they're contingent realities, then how do?
Well, hold on.
These realities get
Why do you think that I think that they're contingent?
So you think we are all necessary realities?
I'm sympathetic to that view. Yeah, that the universe and everything in it is necessary.
Yeah, no, I'm sympathetic to that view too. But being necessary through something is something we're necessary, but we're dependent. I'm talking about the fact that we're necessary through something, right? But there has to be an instantiating reality. Otherwise, we're all.
If it's necessary, then you don't need an like. Why do you need an instantiating reality?
Because by definition,
things just exist.
Because by definition, if you're non-instantiated, that would imply a contradiction because we are instantiated.
That's the claim. I don't believe you. I don't think we are instantiated.
So you don't believe we exist?
No, existence and being instantiated are different things. Being instantiated implies that there is something that instantiated it. I don't think that that's not the same as just existing, right? Like, do you hold on? Do you think that? So do you think that nothing that there are no well-defined? I don't want to use the word objects. Do you think that there are no well-defined abstracta in a non-object-oriented programming language?
Yeah, I mean in functional programming for sure. But
you don't have to instantiate anything.
Yeah, but that's a functional paradigm. Over here, the reason I draw that parallel with object-oriented was because to kind of showcase that essences without an existence could not. I can think of a pink elephant, for instance, but it's not instantiated and it's not existing. So where do you and me we draw our instantiation from, or our existence from? It has to be a necessary. It has to be an existence. An existence cannot not exist because an existing not existing.
So
would be,
our existence cannot not exist. I'm glad we agree.
Yeah, we agree, and that would imply a contradiction.
I mean, we're composite things. So the things that our existence, in some sense, you can think ontologically are grounded by like the things that we're composed of.
Absolutely, and then I would say that the reality that is simple, which is absolute existence, in your case could be the universe. In my case, is the definition of God that I have, is a simple reality that gives existence, that emanates more like. For instance,
I don't know what it means to emanate existence. I don't know what any of that means. Like things either exist or they don't.
Yeah, things either exist or they don't.
I don't know what it means to emanate existence.
So when I say that things don't exist, but there is existence, that would imply a contradiction because existence cannot be equivalent to non-existence, right?
I don't think that it makes sense to even talk about non-existence, right? I think that things exist. Right. Everything, everything exists, but yeah.
So like Mullah Sadra's argument here was that the reality of existence either exists or does not exist. Since it exists and cannot be equivalent to non-existence, because that would imply a contradiction. Therefore, the reality of existence, which is God, exists. And that's
hold on, but now you're just shoving God in there. What if I say the reality of existence is the universe?
Yeah, but then we'd have to come to a definition of what my definition of a God is and your definition of a universe.
Okay, but your definition of a God has a mind, mine doesn't. Sorry, your definition of the necessary existence has a mind. My definition of the necessary thing doesn't have a mind. It contains minds, but it doesn't have a mind itself.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, you believe in a necessary existence. You believe
at least
in a
I'm
reality
sympathetic to the view. I'm also kind of sympathetic to the idea of brute contingencies, but slightly less so.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, well, if you want to head out, that's fine.
No, I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed this live of yours. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thanks for being here.
Yep.
All right. We don't have any super chat. Oh no, we do have a super chat. From Oren Pacht with the $2. Thank you. Lashana Tava from one atheistic Jew to another. Yeah, I'm going to a temple tonight. Because it's what you do, right? All right, let's talk to Lissa.
I would eat chicken occasionally, but I just didn't like red meat.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I do kind of like red meat.
I love steak.
Sometimes I eat chicken, though. I actually eat chicken and red meat.
But I went like 4 or 5 years without eating meat, and my friends took me to Texas Roadhouse on my like 20th birthday or something, and I ate steak for the first time.
I bet it was so good.
And as soon as we got back to the apartment, I got out of the car and puked in the grass.
Oh, yeah, no, that was probably a bad time, though. I would believe that.
Time, your body can't digest it.
Absolutely agree. If you're going to eat meat, you shouldn't go cold turkey, if you will.
Eat a little bit, get a little sick, eat a little bit, feel a little bit not sick.
All right, let's talk to Dumpster Fire. Red meat isn't so great for you, but, you know, all things in moderation. Tim, how's it going? Tim? AI Tim? Did you know that you joined?
Right now All right, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Can you hear me?
I can.
All right,
Do you believe in
cool.
God?
No. Actually, I was wondering if you would allow me to respond to the guy about the heartbeat.
No, I would not. Sorry. Let's talk to Damian Allen. Damian, how's it going?
Hey, good. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Do you believe in God?
Not really. More like in the universe way. I just wanted to talk about the heart thing quickly.
Nope.
The heartfelt.
2 in a row? What are the odds of that?
My gosh.
Jazzy, how's it going?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Do you believe in God?
I do. I
okay.
do.
And which one would that be?
Just the one that created the universe that we see.
So just to head things off, do you think that Jesus rose from the dead?
I do.
Okay. So I'd say you're a Christian. At least tangentially a Christian.
I guess. All right.
Sure.
That's fine.
So okay, what would you say to an atheist like me? Like what's the most compelling argument you could provide me that might, convince me that you're right?
I'm not really here to convince you I'm right. It's more, I guess, just my story about it.
Well, but so if you have a personal account, some sort of experience that gave you evidence, that gave you reason to believe, that's great, but that's not going to be compelling to anybody else besides yourself. So
okay. All right, well, then I'll try and.
Yeah, so I'd like to hear like an argument or some evidence or a reason or something like that, because that is the prompt here.
Okay. Well, my mom's a medical technologist, my brother is a doctor, and I'm a chemical formulator at Bear Crop Science. And so I'm a very science-driven person. And
Sure.
I fully believe in the progressive thing of science is gonna, lead us in the right direction. Like, I'm not anti-science in any way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
So I had been digging my whole life, I guess, for like answers with how the universe is made. And I mean, originally I got into that, I was atheist when I was 19. And when CERN was first launched in Switzerland, I know you know what that is, obviously.
I do.
But so I was extremely fascinated with that, even though I had no idea what was going on, and I don't know the vernacular or the nomenclature that you do or anything like that. But I just think it's fascinating how intricate everything is, and then like the things with like how classic physics and quantum physics, or however you want to frame that, like, do you think they'll ever unify? I'm sorry, I'm getting off track here, but or do you think there is?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. So quantum physics and kind of superseded classical physics. So it's not really something anybody's trying to do. But look, so like what's the argument, right? Like what's the evidence?
The detail and everything, the extreme detail of how beautiful everything is, and I kind of perceive everything sort of like, I know it seems silly, and I'm not well versed in like you are in all these different things with physics, but quantum information holography, the fact that like maybe there's some sort of like we're like in a computer. Whenever like there was a TED talk between Neil deGrasse Tyson and some mathematician who pointed out that on the smallest like fabric of details that there's like code behind everything, and not just any code, like error correcting code, like you would find in a
what you're talking about. That's string theory. And if you want to come on and say that you can prove string theory is real, then sure. But I'm not particularly convinced by string theory. And a lot of people
I'm not
are.
either. It's all the theory. Like a lot of these things are theories.
No, it's very, very different. String theory is a theory in the sense that like it's a mathematical thing. Quantum mechanics is a theory in the sense that it's like been proven time and time again to be true. Like they're different types of things. I mean, like, look, if your argument is just that the universe is complex and orderly, like, I mean, I agree. I don't know how that gets you to a god, though.
I don't know. I guess I just with my life without it was terrible. With it has been a lot different. So like I don't know how that work. The manifestation, all that different stuff, how that plays into like praying and all, because if you are looking for evidence to back a theory, like you're always gonna typically find it, or what I mean by that.
I don't know if that's true, but look, I mean, if this is something that you need for your life to be better, more power to you. It's just not going to be compelling to me. But Jelsey, I'm going to let you go because I don't have a whole lot of time left. But thank you for being here. I'm actually running out of time. My time is almost up.
Hi,
Ripper King, how's it going?
Well, good evening for me.
How's it going?
No, very well, thanks, and yourself.
All right. Do you believe in God?
In a sense, I do.
Okay.
I have
what
had
sense?
an experience. I died 2 years ago.
That's surprising.
I had a heart attack, and
did your brain stop? Did your brain stop working?
To survive.
Oh, so you didn't die? You can't
no.
survive death. That's the whole business.
Well, I had 56 chest compressions 3 times with the paddles that broke my sternum. That happened 3 times over the period of about 8 hours.
I believe you. It just sounds like you like nearly died.
It was,
but like you didn't.
Well, classically, but okay, I'll share my experience.
I don't care about your experience though. Like your personal experience won't be compelling to me. Okay, I don't care.
Oh.
Riles, how's it going?
This has been a very interesting experience. Hi, I'm a Christian. I believe in the traditional
Great.
Tri-God.
Never thought I'd be more pleased to hear somebody admit that they're a Christian. Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of people are coming at you with what sounds like empirical arguments or rhetoric that's supposed to characterize the universe as increasing the probability that a god was involved. And I'm sitting here all this time like, there is no empirical evidence, and it's not fair to have this conversation on the basis of empirical evidence, because you can't empirically prove or falsify God by design. And so I guess I have a lot of questions for you, which is unfortunate because I know your time is running low.
That's fine. I can run a little bit over. That's not an issue.
It was especially surprising to hear that you were an atheistic Jew, because usually that indicates that there is some sort of need for ritual that's arisen from Abrahamic religion. Would you be willing to talk a bit about why you're an atheistic Jew and what being Jewish means to you?
Yeah, I mean, being Jewish is an ethno-religion, or like Judaism is an ethno-religion. I have Jewish parents who had Jewish parents who had Jewish parents, and so on and so forth. So, like, I mean, just culturally and ethnically, those are the things that I have. That like that's the culture and the ethnicity that I was born with and grew up in. It makes my mother happy when I go to temple with her. So I do it. I had a Jewish wedding because I find tradition and heritage important. These are just things I care about.
Okay, fair enough. That makes perfect sense. So in order for you to be convinced to believe in the Christian God, because faith is a requirement of this belief, you would have to want to believe in the Christian God. So why don't you want to believe in the Christian God outside the realm of empiricism, since we've established that empiricism is an invalid basis for belief?
Well, to be fair, I actually don't think that empiricism is an invalid basis for belief for the existence of God. And one way that I could, or at least provide evidence for it. I mean, evidence is never in the realm of proof, right? But like proof and evidence are different things. But for example, if somebody invented a time machine tomorrow, went back in time, set up a GoPro outside of or inside of the tomb, and then we saw Jesus's body be laid there, and then we saw him get up a few days later and then like walk out or like ascend to the heavens or whatever, that would be evidence, right? It would be empirical evidence. So I don't think that empirical evidence is like invalid. I think that people only say that because they don't have any, which I think it's not definitive. But go ahead.
The invalidation of empiricism, because I'm presupposing the existence of the Christian God, of course, and his word is full of the call for faith. In other words, there can't be empirical evidence because faith is a required element of the belief in this particular God. So in this entire paradigm, empiricism is just right out the window.
I mean, it just seems like empiricism is the business of empiricism is that you can derive facts about the world around us from experience, right? And like, isn't there a whole story about a guy who didn't believe in God and then God sent him a vision? God gave him an experience. He gave him evidence that he existed and he became a Christian. Isn't that in the Bible?
Sure. Was the purpose of that story to tell us that actually empiricism is completely a valid way to reach God?
Well, it shows that it is. Is that Paul?
Well, it shows that, of course, God gives us experiences. Of course.
So then empiricism's fine.
Well, no, because the fact that that God can leverage experience doesn't mean that empiricism closes the entire gap between human perception and the divine.
Look, I'm not asking for proof. I'm asking for evidence.
What's the difference between proof and evidence?
Proof increases your belief, or proof can increase your belief or credence in some particular claim. Whereas proof should make your credence in that claim go to 100%. So evidence is weaker than proof, right? We would say that like the fact that the sun rose yesterday is evidence that it'll rise tomorrow. It's not proof that it'll rise tomorrow, but it's evidence. It's very strong evidence.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I started this conversation by saying that there can't be empirical evidence. So if we're unwilling to leave the realm of the empirical to have the conversation, I mean,
we can. I mean, look, we can set that aside if you want. I'm happy to do that. I just think that like a lot of people do try to bring up empirical evidence because they find the empirical evidence for God compelling. I just don't. Like some people say that like, yeah, the evidence of, I've talked to Catholics who say like, yeah, the evidence of the miracles, like that's really compelling to me. And I'm like, well, it's not compelling to me, but like if it's compelling for you, then like, look, that's empirical evidence. And I just think that it's like to say that like these are all mistaken people because they're trying to, they find some empirical evidence compelling. I just think that that's a bit dismissive. But if you want, like, I think there are other kinds of evidence that we can talk about too. Just not empirical evidence.
We have to be like dismissive on a large scale because anytime we assert that our worldview is correct, every other worldview must be incorrect, right?
Well, there's a difference between dismissing a worldview and dismissing an epistemology, right? And I think that those two things are Well, let me just say that I think that's the case, that if you say that empirical evidence is not useful for coming to God, it's not like a useful way to, come to a belief in God, I think that's just a false claim. Like, I think that there are definitely cases of people for whom empirical evidence was instrumental in coming to their belief.
Then why can't any of them show up here to give it to us?
I mean, some of them try. It's just what they consider compelling evidence and what I consider compelling evidence are different.
Is that based on? I mean, I think that's based on an objective standard.
No, it's
right?
not.
Because obviously arguments have integrity to them. They have levels of soundness. Some arguments are better than others. Some accounts of what constitutes evidence are more legitimate than others.
Yeah, so the trouble with the subjectivity, and there is a degree of subjectivity in this, that comes when examining evidence, is that it depends on what your priors are. So it depends on what your priors are, and it depends on how those priors are adjusted given the evidence. So for example, it could be the case that if I come at the world with a worldview that makes me think that car accidents are like wildly unlikely, right? Like they're super, super unlikely, like 1 in a trillion chance of a car accident, because maybe I grew up somewhere where there was never any car accidents, whatever the reason might be. If that's my prior, and then you come and you say, well, look, I have this evidence. I have this piece of paper that says that these car accidents happen all the time. Well, if my priors are so low, I'm more likely to believe that your piece of paper is wrong than that car accidents are actually quite common. So there is a degree of subjectivity when evaluating evidence, especially when it comes to how much to update your priors by and what your priors are. Those are definitely things that contribute, and people come at things in different ways based off how they were raised and so on. So,
Do you believe that truth is objective to begin with?
Depends on what you mean by objective. I think it depends on minds. I think it can be universal. I don't think that objective makes sense when it comes to talk about truth, no.
Ooh,
I think that's like a category error.
You think that like I have my truth and you have your truth? Are you like a total relativist?
No. I take truth to be properties of propositions, as in you have propositions that fall in one of perhaps 2 or more categories. You have true, false, and then maybe you have like unknown or something like that. And considering that I view propositions as mental constructs, if there were no minds, then there would be no truths.
Yeah, this is an interesting position, but it sounds like you're sort of between objectivity and subjectivity here, and I think that what you were saying about priors is just further downstream of objectivity, because the priors have to reflect reality, and if they don't reflect reality, then any evidence that results from your bad priors is going to be illegitimate evidence.
Well, priors aren't supposed to reflect reality. That's kind of the whole point, right? Priors are what are the credences that you assign prior to having evidence, prior to having observations. Now, of course, you can't have no observations, so you try to kind of like consider what's the credence that you assign before considering XYZ piece of evidence, right?
Yeah, I think you're losing me here, because I feel like we got to start from a place that's grounded in truth, and if we don't start from a place that's grounded in truth, we're compromising the integrity of everything that results from that grounding.
I mean, look, I think that truth exists. I think it's just a property of mental constructs. So.
Okay, so I
mean, we can talk about truth, no problem.
That we would have to be with the truth being a property of propositions. But I know you don't have time for that, and I'm not prepared to have that conversation. But tell you what, I will come back another day prepared to have that conversation, and maybe we can talk about it then.
All right, sounds good, Riles. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for hosting.
I didn't want to comment on it, but I'm pretty sure that he has a... Actually, I'm not going to comment on it. Riles, you were great. Thank you for being here. All right, we have 2 super chats to read, and then we're going to end the live. The Nightman cometh with the $5, saying Texas Roadhouse's rolls are goated. I haven't been to Texas Roadhouse in a long time, so thank you guys so much, the Nightman cometh, for that. But I can't comment actually on Texas Roadhouse rolls. And then from Delilah with the $10. Dr. Blitz, glad I found your channel. Keep up the good work. Praise atheismo. No, don't praise atheismo, otherwise you'll go to hell. All right, y'all. But thank you so much for the donation. Let me check Cash App, make sure I didn't miss anything. I didn't miss anything on Cash App. Did I miss anything on Buy Me a Coffee? I did not. All right, that's it. That's it, guys. Tomorrow we're going to do Ask a Physicist. Make sure to go like the YouTube video if you haven't. And I'll see you guys